No, not quite. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us. And I think this is our third year of doing the family reunion recap. Carrie, is that right? She shrugs. That shrug is a confirmation as far as I'm concerned. 3 years, we're gonna say, 30 years. We've been doing it for 30 years and we're really to continue to do it. We've got a lot packed into today. If you can imagine, we're gonna take 5 days worth of information and jam it into just a few hours. You're gonna hear from me, unfortunately, and then we're gonna have a great conversation with an individual from homes.com. You've probably been hearing a lot about things going on with them in our world. Then we're gonna hear from a lovely group of ladies who attended the event about their experience and how that experience was different for each of them based on where they are in their time with KW and where they are in their careers. And then finally, we're gonna hear from a couple of our mega agents, Coby, Socher, and Ryan Young, about their experience being on the big stage at Family Reunion, presenting and what that opportunity looked like and what it means to represent our company in a setting like that. Before we get started, few of you have heard me talk about a little thing coming to town called Bold. So before we get in, I wanted you all to hear from our coach, who many of us met at Family Reunion. And he's going to talk a little bit about what that Bold experience is and why it's so important for us right now. And I got to unmute this. Hold on, David. I also have music. Wow. Awesome. Okay, now today.
Hi, my name is David and I am Bold. Guys, my name is David Jones. I'm excited to be your Bold coach, bringing Bold to Northeast Ohio on Wednesday, April 3rd. Now, we're launching Bold. Bold is a productivity program. I am your coach for the entire duration of Bold, all 7 steps. Okay, now during Bold, we're gonna be learning a lot of things. We're gonna be Bold's an immersion program. Okay, get us into immersion to learn the language of top productivity. Guys, Bold's an accountability program. We're gonna set goals in Bold. We're gonna set big goals in Bold. We're gonna push and stretch ourselves. It's not 7 classes. This is a 7-week immersion and accountability program to get us into new levels. Now, we're also gonna identify blind spots during this journey of being Bold. What are blind spots? Blind spots are little things that we learn about ourselves when we go into immersion. Okay, some people call it stress. You're gonna go in and you're gonna learn about yourself and you're gonna learn how to think bigger, which is also gonna lead us to developing habits. We're gonna be developing habits in Bold, part of our program. The habits of thinking, the habits of learning, the habits of getting better in our skills, and the habits of lead generation. Okay, we're gonna also implement and learn how to have better systems, get more done, and do it in less time. And we're gonna learn how to think bigger, think differently. Some of y'all are gonna discover some cool things about yourself, about what's possible. You're gonna achieve productivity levels and listings and buyers and under contracts that you never thought was possible. We're gonna do all this in the 7-week span of the Bold experience. I'm excited to be on this journey with you guys. My name is David. I am your Bold coach. During this journey of being Bold, the next 7 weeks, starting on April 3rd, of you being Bold. My name is David, and I am Bold. See ya.
Awesome stuff, guys. All of you have a half sheet that was on your chair. So if you have done Bold before, I will tell you that it was created for a market just like this one. We're going to talk a lot about the opportunity the current market presents us. We're going to keep talking about it until we take advantage of that opportunity. And then after, we're going to talk about how we took advantage of it. Right? I'm going to tell you what I'm going to tell you. I'm going to tell you and then tell you what I told you. Bold is going to put us in a position to take lots of market share as an individual. So if you are interested, fill this out and hand it to one of our very talented members of the leadership team on your way out the door today. you want more information, you wanna talk more about what it looks like, what does he mean when he says an immersion program? I'm more than happy to answer those questions. Any member of our leadership team can. But if you have big goals for 2024, this is a surefire way to make progress towards them. Oh, look at that.
Wow.
We have a new staff member. We all say hello to Sarah. Who's coming back? Sarah started with us on Monday as the receptionist of this office, and she is off to a great start. So thank you all for welcoming her. Please continue to, and if you would have previously gone to Kate while she was at the front desk or anything, you can now hit Sarah up for that. And Kate is, again, working as our Assistant Market Center Administrator, supporting the payment of all your commissions. So for a lot of people in the room, Kate has got way more important, right? So we're thrilled to have her join the team and help impact everything agents are doing. Speaking of impacting our agents, we have some tremendous partners in the room. Probably the best breakfast spread I've seen at a real estate event in a long time. Thanks to Nick. Let's give it up to Nick. Nick, the floor is yours, my friend. Tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do, why you do it, and where you got the breakfast from.
Thank you, Mike. I'm Nick. I'm the marketing director for PRC Home Inspections. That's from Brugger's, cut and dry, right down Chagrin. You'll see me at Bowl. I guess I'll bring some Brugger's to Bowl for you guys too. I'll make it quick. I see a lot of familiar faces. Everybody knows us. Everybody knows our team. We have the best home inspectors in Northeast Ohio. Last time I was here, Mike wanted me to kind of speak to what we offer. We're a full service home inspection firm, residential, commercial, sewer scopes, wood destroying insects. You guys know you're all professionals. That's why you're here. And you know everything that we can bring to the table. Something that we've been trying to push are pre-listing inspections. I don't know if you guys have any interest in that. We think it's a huge benefit to you guys to get people who are looking to sell, make sure their houses are in order, make selling a little bit easier for them. Give us a call. It's the same price as our regular real estate transaction inspections. And we also do new constructions. So when builds are going up, pre-drywall, we do a full walkthrough. They close it up, we do it again. You guys have any interest? Just know this is something new that we're offering. I'm not gonna bore you with. It's just down there. Just know Scott Fry, our owner, is the hero. Thank you guys for using Scott. He is the best. Our inspectors are the best, and you guys are. I'm very privileged to be here, be a part of your success. Thank you very much, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Check us out online, and all the best to you. I know you guys have a full day ahead.
Yeah, no,
you.
appreciate you, man. Thank you. So we have some other folks in the room. We have a lot of new agents or agents who haven't darkened the door here in a little while. So I want to just throw it around the horn and give all of our partners a quick chance to introduce themselves and make sure that everybody in the room understands who you are, what you do, and how you can help. Janelle?
Hi guys, Janelle Keeper, Ohio Real Title, with my brother and partner, Rick Capretta, Ohio Real Title. We do all your title and escrow. If people want to know what the heck is title and insurance, here's 70 ways that you could lose your home and why it's important to protect it with an owner's policy. So if you have questions, if you're buying your seller, like, why do I even need that? Well, here's at least 70 reasons. I could come up with a few more. So if you have any questions, seller not sheets, if you need addresses for farming, we're here to assist in all that.
Yeah, and if anyone's interested and is not already a shareholder in Venture, then give us a holler and see if you can't be a part of our ABA.
Awesome.
Hey, everybody, Sean Hadley, Cross Country Mortgage, Chris Bullock, downstairs, back by the microwave.
Don't want to asset in the office, man.
And low rate, so market is kind of plugging along. Inflation numbers came out pretty much as expected this morning. Rates, next week, the Fed meeting happens, there's gonna be no adjustment to interest rates, so hopefully we're gonna kind of just keep a little stability here. Just reach out to Chris, myself, down on the west side. Anything you ever need, weekend pre-approvals, you're in a jam on another transaction, just need somebody to speak English instead of mortgage, we're here for you.
All set.
We have a few words. Thank you, Sean.
Good morning, everybody. My name's Gina Legeza. I'm with America's Preferred Home Warranty. I do all your home warranties. Warranty is something that's very much needed. 8 out of 10 homeowners experience a major system failure in the first 30 days of home ownership. This protects your legal for agents, protects legal for sellers, protects the home for 1 year period. I'm happy to sit down and talk to you about how warranties can definitely enhance your business and help your clients. Thank you. It's nice to be here. Take care.
We'll hear from that guy in a bit. Liz?
I am Liz Kuzminski with the Leverage Center. So the Leverage Center allows anybody, even solo agents, that you may find on a team such as marketing or transaction coordination. You pay on a per item basis, so you're not roped into any monthly fees or anything like that.
Awesome. And you are the transaction
Yes,
coordinator.
I am a
Yes. So
transaction
you hire the transaction coordination opportunity, you get Liz, and how many transactions last year, Liz?
444.
So now we, you know, because it goes so nicely together, we're going for 550. I like that one. Thank you, Liz. And last but not least, Mike Davis.
Hey guys, my name is Mike Davis. I am the owner and operating principal of Cyberbacker of Ohio. I am also a certified MAPS business coach, and I am also the director of operations for a $30 million KW team in Southern Ohio. And I just want to say, first of all, I warned Michael that I had a little soapbox action going on today. This company, literally, Keller Williams, literally changed the trajectory of my life in 2020. Literally. There were opportunities that came our way that we didn't know existed. And I have to tell you that I am in market centers all over the state of Ohio, and I am in other brokerages all over the state of Ohio on a regular basis. And it would be inappropriate for me to be a homer as it relates to greater metropolitan. So I'll say it like this. This market center is one of the most profitable in the world for a reason. And it starts with leadership. Michael and Julia and Carrie and everyone else on the leadership, they are absolutely the best in the business, and they provide you with things that no one else is getting, I promise you. So I have seen recently a few people make horrifying mistakes and leave Keller Williams chasing shiny objects instead of just simply doing the work and doing what they know they need to do. So when people start calling, making outlandish claims that they can't support, and when people start calling, saying that they're going to change your life, I would ask you to objectively audit their claims, because I see again and again and again, people leave and come back and talk about no culture and no opportunities and no training and no leadership again and again and again. I see it. And so I implore you, listen to these guys. Family reunion this year was, it was amazing. It was fabulous. It was the best I've ever seen. Real quickly on Cyberbacker. What is Cyberbacker? We are the Cadillac of virtual staffing companies, and we are here to help you. When people ask me what I do, my answer is always exactly the same. I help agents become business people. If that's a business for you and you're in the $5 million range in production, you need to start thinking about having leverage support, and I'm here for you. We just started doing also, if you don't rise to that level, we're also doing task-based things right now. We're running people with 30 touch plans for them. We're doing leverage-based circle marketing for them. So, and that's at a very reasonable price. So if you're interested in something like that, my Cyberbackers are amazing and they do a great job. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Michael. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mike. Mike told me last night he had a little soapbox thing. I thought it was gonna be about, I thought it was gonna be about cyberbacker, not about, this office, but thank you very much, man. I appreciate that. Pete.
Hey, Mike, what's your contact information, email or something?
Mike Davis, or Mike.Davis at KW. I'll give you the phone number, 614-657-9721, and I've got cards here if you just want to stop and pick up a card.
So as we begin every sales meeting and every major event, I want to take a minute. You know, Mike talked about culture, right? What is culture? To me, it boils down to who you are and what you do. Who we are, that's in this room. That's all throughout Northeast Ohio. What we do is we put these beliefs into action. And so this is not your first meeting. I'm going to invite a couple folks to identify a belief that they have seen recently, that they've executed on recently, or that they're going to focus on as we move into the second quarter and the spring market. What's the belief? What does it mean to you? How do we want to execute? Mike Arco, yeah, I would love to hear yours. Don't make eye contact with me if you don't want to talk.
Yeah.
You can just read them on the screen, right?
Oh, win-win or no deal.
Okay, tell me more about that, Mike.
It's actually my favorite thing to talk about when I'm prospecting because we hear so many no's when we're doing that. And I always say, well, it's gotta be a win-win for both of us. Or else there's no reason for you to hire me. Is that fair to say? And that usually just using that helps me set a lot of appointments. So, it's gotta be a win for everybody or else it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, who's heard from a client or saw something in the news about realtors and their commissions and how much money they make and whether or not I'm paying you? Yeah?
Yeah.
This is so disarming. Right, because it forces a conversation around mutual benefit. Great point. Pete.
I love number 2, integrity. It's actually one of my team values, and I think if you don't have values for your own business, even if you're a solo agent, I encourage you to put together your own values. But we have a lot of opportunities to slide slightly to the left or the right in real estate, and oftentimes nobody's looking. So, you know, for me, I perform for the audience of one, and I always, because it's up on my wall, do the right thing. I always try to do the right thing, even if it seems like it's painful for me as an agent. I think a lot of times we have co-brokes that maybe don't communicate the best or aren't the greatest because they're not Keller Williams trained. And I think we have a really big opportunity in the marketplace as professionals to always do the right thing.
Yeah, it is and will continue to be an even greater separator of you and your competition or you and the balance of the marketplace as we move into this next year.
And the other thing is it really benefits your clients. There's a lot of experienced agents in the room, and I can tell you that if you ask another agent in the marketplace, what's that person like to work with? People talk. And if you're a high level agent and you help the younger agents and you're just a good communicator instead of being combative, that's really good for your clients.
Absolutely. Oh, I was trying to figure out whose hand that was. It was like right behind you. All right.
I think creativity is always been a big one for me. You know, there is an infinite amount of possibilities, like they say, in between each breath is a space, right? So there's an infinite number of things you can do and ideas you have, and each of us, instead of like when going to family reunion, instead of looking at it and going, oh, I have to do it like Rory does it, or I have to do it like this person does it, you have your own creative ability and skills and take what works for you out of what you're hearing. don't try to be just like somebody else. Use the creativity that you have within you to come up with the ideas that work best for you, because then you'll have the results you want. Yeah.
Maria?
I like teamwork. I like words and acronyms, so like together, everyone achieves more. And you can remember team and what that means. I mean, as a solo agent, I remember when 5 years ago when I first got my license and I said, oh my gosh, I'm doing this. And you had that moment of, oh my God, what am I getting into? And then it was like, no, I can do this because there's a team of people. I never feel alone. There's always someone to rely on and who can give you guidance and help, especially, our leadership team and all our partners as well. And I really do appreciate that. And I think that's something important to say. And I hope too, that I'm at a point where people can come to me and I can help someone else too.
Oh, I know that you are. You are. Absolutely. And it's such a great point. We talk about this like, oh, I have a team or, oh, I have a partnership or I'm a solo agent. Like nobody here is alone. And you never should feel that way. And if you do, please let me know. I mean, the perimeter of this room is your team. Right? The ladies at the back of the room are your team. Andrew Ginter is your personal legal advisor. Nah, I'm kidding. But you have people around you that would crawl over broken glass to see you succeed, and I want you to take advantage of that. All right, one more. Yes.
I liked success results through people, because I feel like working with people can be obviously challenging and in many ways. So I think success reads less of a transaction, like less transactional, but more like success across the board. Like it's constantly challenging me to better myself through working with people. So I liked that.
I love that. And it's such an appropriate bookend to win-win or no deal. Right? Like we have to succeed with and through others so that everybody can win together. Awesome. Awesome stuff. All right. We are going to dive into one of my favorite parts of the family reunion experience is getting a rundown of all the cool stuff that Gary Keller gets access to before the general public. And then we get access to before the general public, including but not limited to the NAR data, National Association of Realtors, Home Buyers and Sellers Profile. So in April, we have an event called the Q2 launch, where we kick off spring market together and we go take a lot of market share. Sean Hadley and I do a little dueling banjos on economic data during that session. So where we may have historically touched on some of that here, I really want to get into home buyer and seller profiles for you, because if you aren't, you're about to be going on a lot of appointments. And it's very, very powerful to understand what the data tells us about our customers. And so today we're going to look at that. As soon as I can figure out how to make this. You know what? We're just gonna leave the border around. The worked up, not used to wearing a jacket. So. Oh, yeah. Am I sweating now? Just finished a batch of soap. It's rose scented, so if I do start to wet, you guys, it's gonna be delightful. So every year, the National Association of Realtors surveys home buyers and sellers, and they collect a bunch of data on everything from, is this your first home? Why did you move? How did you find the home that you bought? How did you come to be in a relationship with the realtor that you use? When we take that in our individual one-of-one experiences, it can be misleading, right? Some people say like, oh, I get business this way, or, oh, all my clients are that way. Important context. And understanding when we aggregate over millions of transactions, we may learn something that would allow us to do more business or serve our clients at a higher level. So the first statistic is first-time home buyers. When you look at this, you look back 10 years ago, 1 out of every 2 people was a first-time home buyer, and now it's 32%. What does that really mean? Just means that there is about 1/3 of the people that are doing business in the marketplace right now that desperately need the help of a realtor to guide them in the process. And when we move later on in the slides, we see how long people in their home, the average person hasn't bought a home in 10 years. I would argue that if you haven't bought a home in a decade, like 2014, we were just on the cusp of ubiquity for things like Doppler. Right? Think about how different the market was in 2014. I'm going to put forth that 10 years ago, 1/3 of the people were first-time home buyers. Right now, they're first-time home buyer, about 1/3 are first-time home buyers. I'm going to encourage you, to anybody who hasn't bought in the last 4 or 5 years, treat them like a first-time home buyer. Sean, you've been in mortgage for 150 years. How different are the mortgage products today versus 10 years ago?
You have more than 2 flavors, so it's much better, much more expanded.
Yeah, so if we're not taking a primary position as an educator for our clients, if we assume like, oh, they're selling a home, they obviously know how to buy one because they've done it before. I think we leave a lot on the table from an experience standpoint, which is going to drive repeat and referral business. So why do people purchase homes? Now you're going to see this data is positioned against all the way back to 2016 and then against the last several years. There's not a terrible amount of movement in each category, but it's very important to consider, okay, why are people purchasing homes? Take a minute to take that in and let me know what jumps out at you. Anything surprising on there? Like,
I'll give you one. Financial security is so low on the list when financial security is such a big part of owning a home and creating wealth and creating the future. And that means it's not being articulated well enough on our part.
Thank you for that. Hang on to that. There's a slide later where I want you to revisit because it's a very interesting, there's a very interesting juxtaposition against some other data.
I guess coming off of what he said, it's surprising to me that what is on the bottom half is not at the top. Like, I feel like it should be swapped.
Yeah.
It's surprising. I guess.
Well, and think about your messaging, right? All this information is helpful for you to communicate with your clients differently. Right? If you are out there promoting opportunities to buy, sell, or invest in real estate, are we talking about financial security? Or are we talking about the joys of home ownership? Because 1 out of every 4 people just thinks it would be awesome to own a house.
Yeah.
Right? So, I mean, we're going to talk about the path of the customer today. If that's what they want, that's what we can offer them. And we can educate them on all of this. What's the classic lead generation prospecting line? Who do you know that wants to buy, sell, or invest in real estate? Okay, that's not on here. So what if we frame the question, who do you know that wants to be a homeowner? Who do you know that wants to live closer to family? Who do you know who's just had, some marital troubles? Who do you know that's just got a promotion to your friends? Who do you know that wants to be closer to their friends and family? Who do you know that's moving back to Cleveland that I can help? When we frame it in what the person wants, their reason for owning a home, the reticular activating system of the person you're prospecting with is going to get really jazzed up. Instead of, because no one's calling up their friends saying, you know what I want to do today? Buy, sell, or invest in real estate.
I was just gonna say, a thing to think about is who do you know who wants to build wealth?
Right.
That's a really good question. You know, as the stock market fluctuates, real estate, and Gary did a really good job of showing the curve. It may only be 4 or 5%, but as you're paying down that loan, you can build a tremendous amount of equity in a short period of time.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think the break is just like 20 months of home ownership, and then you start to outstretch renting, right? From an economic standpoint. Really important to understand, this is why people are buying homes. And if we're not talking to them about how we can help them do these things, then we're just trying to sell them on our commission rate, right? Where's our value? All right, this is pretty cool. So here's the tenure in homes. About a quarter of everybody owning a home is there for more than 20 years. And then you see it's pretty well distributed, right? Except for the 2% that move within a year or less. So think about this, 4.1 million homes sold last year. Who knows what 2% of 4.1 million is?
5,500.
That you do.
I don't. Is it, what is it? Is it
85,000?
Yeah, 80,000, 82,000. So there are 82,000 people in someone's database that sold them a home and then they thought, well, there's no way that they're gonna need my help anytime soon, that then turned around and had to sell. Now, here's what's really interesting, because you think people are gonna stay in their homes longer than they do. So do they. Across the board, everybody thinks that they're gonna be staying in their home for 16 to 20 years. Half the people do. Only 11% of the population does it. There's never a good time to stop talking to your database, to stop talking to your clients. I mean, look. 10%, 2 to 3 years. 10%, 14%, 4 to 5 years. As this is, think about this. That's people who bought with interest rates below 3%. 1 out of 10 people is selling their home despite their amazing interest rate. Weeks in the home search. It's about 10 weeks. If you ask me, it's increasing, right? I mean, well, you don't have to ask me, it's right there. But I think it'll get back up to about 12 weeks, which means we need to work deeper into our pipeline. Yes, you will always have the person who calls you and says, I want to buy. And if we're in good conversation, how often should you call your database? Once a quarter? How many weeks in a quarter? 13? Pretty damn close, right? That if you're talking to your database every quarter, you're not going to miss out on anybody that's thinking about buying when they're thinking about buying. When they start thinking about buying. What do people do in the home buying process? Where do they start? Online, right? They look for properties online and then they call their real estate agent. Wouldn't it be awesome if when they go to look at properties online at the most popular website, soon to be most popular website for residential real estate sales, they also saw their realtor there. Maybe talk about that later today, maybe, I don't know if we'll have time. Looking for information on the home buying process and then mortgage broker. Everything below that, or talk with a friend or relative. So big thing, online, be a real estate agent and then be in relationship with mortgage partners and your database who can refer you. How important are referrals? We'll get to that in a minute. You are the greatest source of information to your clients. And I'm going to go back to what Maria said. There are people in this room who have sold a couple of homes or are still view themselves as a new agent. You are still infinitely, sitting in this room today, you have more experience than any of your clients. You get to be the source of information and they're counting on you to do that. And when you don't know the answer, make sure you get the contact information of everybody to your right and left. Is there anybody in the room who would not help another agent? Just raise your hand so we know not. Yeah, no, there's nobody that would. So take advantage of that because you are the primary source of information for everybody involved in a real estate transaction. And for some people, that's terrifying, right? At one point, Maria said it was terrifying for her. And here we are 5 years later, and she's one of the top individual agents in the company. How cool is that? Where people found their home? The internet or their real estate agent? This is really fascinating. Hang on to the percentage of people who found the home they were looking for on the internet. Because what this doesn't tell you is whether they found it on your website or whether they consider that MLS portal that you sign them up for the internet, right? Whether or not they're identifying that as an agent. But it's really interesting when you look at, and it's not really much interesting one here. People want information on the property and pictures of the property. Who's shocked by that? Methods of home purchase, 89% of the people buying a home use a realtor. 41% get a written agreement, a buyer broker agreement. Some people do oral agreements. I'll tell you, this number needs to be higher. If it's your brother, your best friend, or somebody you met off the street, doesn't matter. Get them to sign saying they understand that you are going to represent them and earn a commission off that relationship. There was a settlement put forth by Keller Williams for the lawsuit, the NAR lawsuit, or the lawsuit from a few months ago. That will, if accepted, will basically absolve all past sins. It does not protect us from future sins. So if we run around telling our buyers that they don't actually have to pay us because the seller pays their commission and we work for free or blah, 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 get a written buyer broker agreement signed. There's one in your dot loop. It's part of all buyer packets. Very important. It also strengthen the relationship. Okay. Sorry, I got a little glare here from angling. All right. So what do buyers want from their real estate agents? Number one, far and away, the only thing that matters to them. What is it? Where do people find their homes? This is why we need to be actively prospecting, right? And actively lead generating for buyers and sellers. The number one reason we get hired as a buyer's agent is to find the home. And our ability to push those to people. And again, I don't know that this is saying that they weren't sent the link from their real estate agent, right? Survey data is always suspect, but I want you to just adopt the mindset that if you have somebody in your pipeline and you are not feeding them homes aggressively, and somebody else is, whether that somebody else is Zillow or another agent or somebody's personal agent website, then that's who they're going to gravitate towards. Even if it doesn't perfectly fit, even if they say, oh, I don't like any of the homes that you sent me, the number one thing they want is homes. So in your buyer consultation presentation, are we talking about all the things we do to help someone find the right home? This is the cheat code for having an effective buyer presentation. One, the number one thing I do to support my clients is I find them the right home. Now, you'd think it'd all be over and done with, and in some cases, if you got a big pile of money, it can be. But there's also this thing about being under contract and writing good contracts and negotiating on your best interest. I also do that. I also help negotiate the terms. What are terms? Yeah, there are three things that are important in a contract: price, terms, and conditions. I focus on negotiating all those. I know when you see online that this house costs $225,000, that you just think price. Price is important, but so are terms and conditions. And here's what those are. By the way, I do paperwork and I can pull comps, right? Number one, what do they want? Homes. So where do people find their buyer's agents? Yeah. Let's add it up. Referred by a friend, neighbor, or relative. Well, that feels like if I'm calling my database, right? I'm going to get those referrals. Used agent previously to buy or sell a home. Okay, that person's in my database. I'm already at 56% of all buyers and I haven't left my database. Inquired about a specific property viewed online. Okay, if that's through my personal website or a website that I'm a member of, those people better be in my database. Now I'm at 60%. Any other website? No. Referred by another agent or real estate broker. How many people have other agents in their database? You get referrals? Any of you get referrals?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, so that feels like database, so now we're at 65%. This one I love. 1 out of 20 people meet their agent at an open house. Love it when people are like, you know what, no need to do open houses now, right? Houses sell like that. Well, there's plenty of houses that aren't selling like that, and take whatever you made last year and multiply it by 1.05. And then that's the gap. Right, that's what you're missing out on. If you're not doing open houses. So we have, and if somebody shows up to your open house, you can put it in your database, right? So 43, 56, 63, 68% of all buyers are in your database. When it comes to interviewing buyers, everybody has their anecdotal, like, I like to go last, I like to know what I'm up against. Cool, just be first. Like, I love that for you, and be first. Because there's a little thing we love to call confirmation bias, and it's when you get the listing in the 3rd position that you think that it works, but you never tell me about the time that they called you and said thanks but no thanks. Most important factors for buyers. Again, cheat code for your buyer broker presentation. What experience do you have? What's your reputation? Are you honest and trustworthy? What is a great way to get all 3 of those at once?
Letter recommendation or whatever. it was called.
Review.
Thank you.
The review. One of those are.
Letter recommendation.
Yeah, a letter of recommendation. I would like,
Thank you.
I included this for my high school principal. I don't know if you would like to see it, but I am a great realtor. It is the review. So if you have reviews or testimonials and you just look, those 3, the only thing that's even close to it is being a blood relative. Right? And if you're in the Shedden family, you have to decide between multiple people at that point. Honest, trustworthy, experienced, and reputable. Reviews from your past clients are going to communicate all those things at once. And guys, you don't have to sneak this in on your buyers. You can just tell them, hey, I have a great reputation in the marketplace. Here's a review written by another agent I work with. I am very honest and trustworthy. Here's the time I did the right thing for my clients, even though it cost me. Right? Just tell them. Now, demonstrating with other people's words is important, because how honest or trustworthy does the person who stands at the front of the room and says, I'm really honest and trustworthy seem? Seems like every politician we've ever heard, and we're going to hear for the next 10 months.
Yeah.
Now, Mike, you had a point about financial and investment, the financial security of buying a home. Look at these statistics. Is real estate a good financial investment? 82% of people say that it is. It's a better investment than stocks. 88 people say it's as good or better. So think about every single person in your database is an investor. They're saying right now, like, yeah, I'd rather invest in real estate than stocks, but what? Don't know how, don't have anybody to help me with it. Right? And if you don't want to work with investors, if you don't want to do that, refer it to one of the 100 agents that specialize inside of this company. But that's 88% of the population that has a pile of money that they're either gonna put into the Dow Jones Industrial Average, or they're gonna pay you a part of to find them a much more secure investment. And this isn't like airy-fairy stuff. This is what the consumer is saying. What percentage of people use the real estate agent? 89%. What percentage of people are repeat and referral business? This is how many people said they would definitely or probably use their realtor again? 90%. Who remembers the number that did? 13%. Now, this is repeat and referral, so I will give you that it is a friend, family member, or neighbor that referred. That was 43%. So there's still 34%, a third of all the business being done is left on the table. Why? People said they would definitely or probably use you again.
Because they don't hear from you.
They're in your database, they just don't know it because they don't hear from you. Most people somewhat or very satisfied, over 90% of people. So like, again, this is a great, you guys are gonna get these slides. This is a great slide to throw into buyer and seller presentations for when you get the question about like, what's all this stuff going on with NAR? And I heard you all are getting sued left and right. And an agent called me yesterday and asked how much of their commission were they gonna have to pay back from last year because of lawsuits? It's like, oh man, do I have good news for you? This is a great thing to demonstrate that like, look, and you can do your own data. As you know, are you satisfied? Even somewhat satisfied. Yes. Put this in there and be like, look, most people are satisfied. Overwhelming, right? And there's some people we all know, if you told me, if the number was higher than 91%, I'd say it was a lie because 10% of the people are just not gonna be happy, no matter what. All right, the honeypot here, the sellers. Thought the numbers were big for who's in your database. The sellers are in your database. First of all, 39% referred, friend, family member, neighbor. 26% used the agent previously. If you're doing the buy side correctly, you create a lot of trust and a lot of stickiness. 1 out of 4 people that sell are completely off limits, right? Because you help them buy. If we stay in conversation and relationship with them. The best tactic I ever saw for this was every time you close a deal and that person's in your database, right? You probably had them tagged as a buyer. They were probably in your buyer pipeline. One individual at a regional event once put up their database and showed that they flipped the tag from buyer to future seller. Then you start talking to that person. You know, there's 4 things people do with homes. They search, they buy, they own, and they sell. Your ability to help somebody sell is impacted by how you help them buy and own. So when you stay in relationship with them, everybody who's posting in the Facebook group about who has a plumber, who has a guy who can do gutters, who knows a good lawn care company, those people are all trying to service homeowners, not buyers or sellers, homeowners. Because if you help them own the home and protect their equity in it, you can help them unlock it later. All right, we're up to 65% or 2/3 of all sellers, and we haven't even got off the second line. Websites, personal contact by an agent, two of that 4% belongs to Mike Arco and Ryan DeLuca because they just dialed. So good on them for that. Referred, look at 4% of sellers referred by another agent. And then 3% of all sellers at open houses. Best piece of advice you could ever have is you don't hold open houses for buyers, you hold them for sellers. Somebody's walking through judging the way that you present the home and thinking about whether or not you do well at doing it for them. So let's say if I call you or you are referred, or that's another 11. So we're at 77% or 76% of all sellers are in my database or 1 degree of separation away from me in my database. Love hearing people tell me that they're one of the 6% that they like to be in the 3rd slot. Just be first. Every time, be first. And then listing presentation. What does a seller want you to do? What do they need help with? Price the home competitively, market it to potential sellers or buyers, excuse me, and then help sell the home within a specific time frame. So you get to understand the third one by asking really good questions. What's your motivation, right? That, first M and LP mama. And then your marketing plan and pricing the home, by far the three most important things. And then again, are you actively lead generating for buyers on their behalf? You get that, you're gonna get 75% of the sellers on the planet to think that you're a good listing agent, whether you've sold a home or not. And then the most important factors, again, reputation, honest and trustworthy. You can see experience doesn't even show up on the list. It's important for the buyers, but not the sellers. And then, of course, being blood related to somebody. Again, 85% definitely or probably would use them again. Only 26% do. Now, you could look at that as like, geez, man, I really need to call my database, or it's like, holy cow, there's a lot of opportunity out there in other people's databases. Like, if they're not gonna call them, I might as well. And then 89% used an agent. This is interesting. You can see in the last decade or more, it's gone from half the homes having some sort of a incentive to almost none, or only a quarter. But it's still a quarter. Right? So when you are working with your seller, understanding, hey, what is your motivation? When do you want to move? How can we move things along more quickly, or are you willing to wait? Those things are, you've got tools in your tool chest here. Hey, offer a home warranty. Hey, we can do this. You could do a pre-inspection. We get it all cleaned up, tidied up, get all the work done, and then you list a maximally saleable house that minimizes the negotiations necessary to get to close. All right, those are the slides. Just immediate reactions. I want to get Tim up here to talk a little bit about homes.com, but just any reactions, any ahas?
So at family reunion, when the slide came up and Gary was up there talking about a buyer's agreement.
Yeah.
And I will tell you, I've been doing this 11 years and I've never had a buyer's agreement signed. Now, I don't work with a lot of buyers anymore, but I really never have. Most of my buyers have been family, friends, people like that, but still, he was so pissed off and adamant.
Yes.
Like, he's like, wasn't he?
Yeah.
He was like, you better do this.
Well, yeah, he just paid
Like,
$75 million.
Yeah, he was like, if
Because
you're
we
sitting
didn't
in
do
this group and you don't do this, like, pretty much, I don't want you in my company, like, that's how he made it sound. He was really adamant about it. But I think for me, out of all of that, that is the most important thing, especially this day and age. I've had buyers, friends, wives, like, go with somebody else, and I showed them 3 houses and they went with somebody else and I had no recourse. So I think it's super important, and I think that we all should be doing that regularly.
Yeah, I mean, no deal's worth your integrity, and no client is worth, bending the map for it. When you think about what are the things that are important, honesty and trustworthiness, right? What says more to the client that I want an open, honest, direct relationship than, hey, here, we're gonna define the relationship.
Right.
Here's what you can expect from me. Here's how we tear this agreement up. Here's how we move forward. Here's how I help you. Defining it up front. And I would just simply ask them, if you're talking to other agents and they haven't done this, I would be curious as to whether or not they're gonna act in your best interest.
Are we gonna have a class of some sort about buyer's agreements? Because one of the things I see in my real estate groups that are debates about it, I've always used the buyer's agreement. I don't like to deal with people with that one.
Yeah.
But, some say, oh, well, like you said,
Yeah.
she's never used one, it's a trustworthy thing. And it's about approaching people to get them to sign that.
Yeah.
Because even I let them go, because they don't wanna sign it, but for agents to have to let business go.
Yeah.
If someone doesn't wanna sign that.
That's right.
Are we gonna have some sort of?
Yeah, I think that
it's a great
maybe
idea.
one of our broker masterminds, Andrew and I can dive into that and the mechanics of it, what it says, and because there's other, someone's like, oh, what if you ghost me and I don't want to use you anymore? Cool, there's a mechanism to get out of it, just like a listing agreement. Cool. Andrew.
One thing, this sort of ties in on the buyer side, but both of those interview slides about multiple interviews and how many people don't do it. I'd be willing to bet them in every case where people had multiple interviews, it's because the first person didn't end the conversation with, are you ready to do business together? Or you just simply ask for the business, especially on the buyer side, it's very easy to just kind of like walk through a presentation and then move on, or show them 3 houses in one day and then kind of move on and not close the loop.
Yeah,
And
wait for him to call you.
that buyer agreement would be the easiest way to close.
Yeah, the brain operates on 2 primary modalities, recency and primacy, right? Recency is whoever was last, primacy is whoever is first. You don't know whether or not you're last when you're second or third. They could be interviewing 7 people, but you always know when you're first. All right, good stuff. Let's bring Tim up here from homes.com. Now, for those of you who were at family reunion, homes.com was the sponsor of the whole thing. And so it started a lot of conversations, right? Homes.com is a platform that home buyers and home sellers are going to in droves right now. I think 175 million a month last year, number 2 position on residential real estate websites, which felt like, what's that? And growing, right? We'll be number 1 before the end of the year. But it was interesting because it felt like a little bit of a departure from some of the conversations that we've had as an organization about protecting our database and being proprietary and driving people to our websites. So when I saw that, I thought to myself, I'd like to learn more about what's going on here. And I imagine our agents would as well, since 88% of all consumers say that we are the single greatest source of information in real estate transactions. And so I said, Tim, why don't you come do a 5-minute spiel, and then we'll have a conversation in front of all the agents about, what you guys are up to at homes.com. Yep.
Perfect. So, and this is like a 45-minute presentation boiled down to 5, so we'll keep it brief. And
Mine was actually a 4-hour presentation, boiled down to 45. So.
Good job, good job.
So the real point is to give you a teaser here. So afterwards, if you want to spend a little more time, you can arrange a time to spend 45 minutes or whatever, really look and see if it's the right fit for you. But to give you an idea of maybe who we are, and if you're not familiar with us, if you're ever a commercial agent, CoStar, we're the largest provider of research information globally on the commercial side of the business. You might have heard of apartments.com, through our ad campaign and so on. So the best way to say is that we are a combination of those 2, coming out with our latest brand, which is homes.com, which kind of bring a similar ad campaign that you saw from apartments, but also sounded like the software and the research and the content from our commercial side. And you might know LoopNet, Land, and BizBuy.com, and all these in terms of we are committed to this space in terms of it. So this kind of displays what we saw as a problem. This is a combination of 2 slides where we did a lot of focus groups with realtors just like you, and we sensed that there was a problem. People were pretty upset with the way things were working with some of the players in the market like Zillow and so on. And this sort of explains that, where Zillow was actually taking people with their listings and putting their name on it. And that's completely different from our approach, where it's going to be your listing, your lead. So we're never going to be selling leads. We're never going to be taking commissions from buyer agents or seller agents in that respect. So highlighting the agent and putting them back into the center of the conversation. So actually a corny story is that CoStar itself was started on the commercial side. There's realtors and brokers there too. It was always CoStar, is that the star was the realtor and the broker, and the information and marketing platform, CoStar, was next to it. So we rebuilt it. We bought homes.com, which was actually an existing site that did 40 million in revenue. We just kind of tossed that away and rebuilt it into this new model. We have an app as well as a brand new website, taking some of the apartments.com, the kind of infrastructure and tubing and so on, and the commercial side, and rebuilding it. But also building out the content. If you see there, we really kind of think about, we're talking about homes, but and that's incredibly important, but it's also the neighborhoods, the context. So when we actually, if anyone's been on homes already, you'll see there's a lot of research around neighborhoods, schools, and the realtors themselves are all built out in there. And then also you can see there's different ways of searching in terms of property sales, who's the best agent for you. A lot of the same in the integrity stuff saying is like building like experience, why you've done it, why you know this neighborhood, why do people pick the broker they are. And this kind of highlights some of the research and content. We have actual professional photographers going all over the country. You might even see these CoStar cars going around taking photographs. pictures of 20,000 neighborhoods. You go into your neighborhood, there may already be a video there in terms of like highlighting what the strong parts of that are, you know, park photos, school photos, condominiums. So we're not just scraping the internet, we're actually bringing content and value and software to these areas that we're potential buyers and sellers will be coming to. So here's a combination also of like just better agent buyer tools. So we kind of talked about, you kind of think about your listing agreement or buyer agreement. Once that is signed, you get a chance to interact with your buyers, and we can kind of demonstrate this and so on in terms of track their preferences and activities, send different recommendations to them as well. And then also, once you've made that connection, you know, when you're searching through the database, you as the buyer agent will be their one point of contact. So any listing they look at, they'll show you, say, Tim Haskett Realtor over what was the listing agent. And then also to sell, there's great seller agent tools in terms of being able to connect with your seller. So the power of the advertiser, I think, is so we have better software, better content, and then also better tools for the brokers and sellers in terms of doing listing updates, in terms of being able to track this information. If you're actually pitching new listings or telling, you know, maybe you have a buyer or lister that is, maybe their price is too high. Being able to see like, wow, we've gotten this many impressions, it's telling you that it might be the wrong number in terms of what's offered. And then also the power of redirection. All these things, New York Times, CNN, and so on will show a little bit more. If you're actually on social media right now, you might already be seeing homes.com ads. Eventually, as a member, your listing would appear there. If they're looking at your actual property and listing, it would be redirected as a high intent buyer. That would be also the same for you as an agent. If they're looking at you as an agent person, your photo and your agent would then appear on places like ESPN, Facebook, and Yahoo. So, and how we're doing that is we're going to spend $1 billion in advertising. You've probably already seen our 4 Super Bowl commercials, as well as all these different impressions and reaching 90% of all households and so on. So, give you an idea, Zillow, I think, is doing maybe 100 million in advertising. We're doing $1 billion. So we feel like we're going to bring people to the site. There's going to generate excitement. They're going to stay there for better content, better software, better information about you as realtors, kind of putting you back to the forefront. And, you know, we've already just gotten started. They said over 140 million in average monthly unique impressions. You can see where everyone else is kind of, we're like losing. So if you're currently using Zillow or so, you can probably see a lot of this traffic might be moving directly towards homes.com, and they'll be staying there. And so it's going to continue to build. And I think apartments.com is a good example of that. You've probably seen like, this is a good trivia question. If anyone knows who the #1 apartment site was 5 years ago, it was Zillow. Really? It was. So you can now see apartments.com is the player in that space, and homes.com will be too. So
I would have said Craigslist.
So that's it. You know, we that was a real like presentation.
Well,
So
let's pull up a chair here and let's have a conversation because, I mean, I think my first question is, what did Zillow do to piss you guys off? Really, got it out for them.
you know, maybe our CEO, you know, because he's a huge competitor. He's been successful in this space, and I think he also saw a problem. You know, he saw, you know, realtors who were upset in this space, and he saw an opportunity that he could leverage and grow his.
That's an interesting, you know, the CEO was interviewed by Gary Keller during Family Reunion, and he comes from, is it Andy?
Andy Florence.
Andy Florence. He comes from a real estate family, is that right?
He does. Father was an architect.
Okay, yeah. So he's got some familiarity with the space. So I'm just gonna dive in. I want to unpack a few things. One, you said that you aren't selling leads.
Correct.
Okay, so how do you make money?
Really one way, membership. You know, we would, each person, I should say, everyone is probably on homes.com right now. So you should probably go and check out your listings and also check out your profiles and so on. So as a member, you get enhanced exposure on the site, either through your listings or your member profile. So like when someone searches, you'd be at the top of the page. You know, if they're looking for this particular neighborhood and you have a listing there, you're at the top of the page. And usually when, as you know, through the internet, if you don't go past that first or second page, people don't often make it there. So it gives you that added, I guess, juice to, you know, build your own personal brand, market your own listings.
So when it comes to the listing side, somebody goes on and I've got a listing at 123 Main Street, right? It's been the most listed house in history. 123 Main Street. my face is gonna pop up next to it,
Correct.
right? And so when they click like, hey, I'm interested in this home. How am I gonna be able to receive that? Is my phone gonna ring? Is it gonna get an email?
Your phone is gonna ring, basically it'll get routed through CoStar or homes.com, because this wants to track that you got that lead and make that impression, but then your phone number will, and actually that goes on now. So if you actually tested it and you have a listing there, if you'll maybe not recognize the number, you dial it, we'll go through CoStar and make your phone.
Okay, so, follow-up question. Have you ever tried to call a real estate agent?
Yeah, I call them a lot these days.
They don't answer 100% of the time, right?
Exactly.
So then what happens with my lead?
Still yours.
Still mine. So is there
Yeah,
a way that I
I
can go
assume that
in?
person will leave a voicemail or.
Is there any way that, can I go in and see like who clicked and who dialed and then
Yeah.
call them back, even
Yeah.
if they didn't leave a voicemail?
That's correct. yes.
Okay, so there is a data capture on the dial-in that says, if I'm in an appointment giving full focus to my client and I can't get to the phone, I can still go back and say, hey, I noticed you were looking at 123 Main Street.
Okay, so, yeah.
Yep, cool. Help all of us understand a little bit what it looks like on the buy side.
Well, the buy side, I think it's where it fits very well in what you're saying, of building that relation through a buy side agreement, because as soon as you do that, you can make your connection with that person. Once you connect in homes.com, they are your agent. So basically, when they go in, they see you on every single listing. And you also have the ability to see where they're searching. So if they're searching in different areas or looking at different properties, that might stimulate you to say, hey, well, these are other listings I think might be important to you. And you can actually share with them and then communicate with them.
So how do I claim a buyer?
Well, they have to select you.
Okay, so how does that happen?
Basically, they would be logged in, have their own thing, and they'd be able to select you as their agent.
Now, is there a way that I can push like a link to them to say, hey, select me?
That's a good question. I can follow up with that one precisely, but I think it might just be an easy way. I'm sure it's probably, there is a link there, so you could probably just send an email to someone, so like, hey, make it easy.
Yep.
Here's our buyer agent agreement, and by the way, click here, now we can communicate through homes.
Okay, so tell me a little bit more about that, like what is happening, I guess if I send them to homes.com and they haven't claimed me, are they just seeing listing agents?
They're seeing listing agents, yeah.
Okay,
So it's basically, they're coming in, taking a look at it.
okay. So one thing that, was important to me about this conversation, was the $1 billion of advertising spend. One, like we're gonna be hitting homes.com off for so much money as a local office, it's different, but, no, it's about, what is your expectation for traffic? You're at 140 million views a month now.
Our expectation is to beat Zillow.
Sure,
ahead of
sure.
Zillow,
Yeah.
in terms of,
What are they at?
I can't list it off the top of my head, but I can,
Okay, maybe you think you're gonna hit 200 million monthly views?
yes.
Okay, so what's important, if we think back to the slides, right, back to the breakdown of the NAR data. 50% of people are finding their home online. What's important to me, for everybody in this room and everybody in this company, is understanding the path of the customer. And if right now, right, some people in this room or in this company are beholden even to Zillow, right? Because that's where the customer goes, right? Some of us are sending links to stuff on Zillow for our clients to view. And it's been that way for what, 7, 8 years?
Yeah.
And a few people have tried and failed to unseat them. And yet, it looks like that's gonna happen here. So it's important that if we know consumers are finding homes online, homes.com is gonna be get the most traffic of anybody. I'm not here to tell you to go sign up for premium memberships. That's not what today is. Although we have negotiated a 10% discount for all KWGM agents. That's not the most important thing. The most important thing is to understand your client and where they are going to go. Whether it's Jeff Goldblum or that guy from Schitt's Creek, like they are impressionable from celebrities and they're gonna be directed there. And so if we are there to meet them, or we can go on that journey with them, it's going to allow us to, one, protect our relationship, better define the relationship, and most importantly, help them purchase a home, find the home they're looking for. So you know, we came up with a little, you got your listing, your lead.
Yep.
And I think it, you know, your buyer, your business, right?
I give it to our vice president of marketing, she loved it.
Yeah, well,
Well, I know.
royalties. And so, so what is that, I'm not uploading a database, right? I'm not like giving you my contact information.
Yeah.
Cause that's a scary thing. And, you know, we just spent, longer than Carrie had allotted me to,
Mhm.
talking about how 2/3 of all buyers and 3/4 of all sellers are in my database.
Mhm.
So how do you kind of ease the hearts and minds of the room that, that your path forward is not gonna take a hard left and end up just marketing to our people or selling leads?
Yeah, well, I think you have to look back at our history. I mean, we have a long history in the commercial side, over 30 years, and we've never done it. That's not what our DNA is, it's not what our business model is. And it's not in our plans. So our plan is to, I mean, I don't think we need to apologize for making money, you know, that, I mean, we're all here to do that, right? But we're here to build a platform, an advertising platform where you can enhance your brand and your listings. You know, you don't have to choose to participate. You don't have to do that. Everyone's gonna have their listings on there. Everyone's gonna have an agent, you know, bio of themselves, but it will be enhanced. Will you be redirected to places like ESPN or CNN and things like that? So it will always be that ability to do more if you choose to.
Any data around how that redirection works? Cause I know like Ylopo does it, if anybody uses Ylopo, and a couple others have sort of looked at that as a path to get people back, and I don't know that it's like really shook things up.
I do have a slide for that, but it's not in this condensed version. I think if I recall, it's usually like 50 times more effective, you know, in terms of you will get that much more of views and information or views on your, your bio and your listing.
And so it is, if I have listings, it's gonna take my listings. If I don't have listings, it's gonna take them to me.
Yeah.
So we talk about it.
Well, if you're looking at your bio, like
Yeah.
say there, because the other thing is we have sort of the LinkedIn buyer directory. So at the same point, you can go and search for an agent, like you said, based on experience, some of the things why people want to choose an agent, or maybe it's other listings, what deals they've done. So that's all captured there. So they can search for that. And at that point, once they're looking at your buyer agent, you may be redirected.
How do reviews from other sites manifest on your platform?
Well, I think we're encouraging people then eventually to put their reviews directly on homes, but I know in the past, some like with Homes Plus, if anyone had used Home Snap or something like that, they were able to migrate them from Google and so on, but we'd have to, I can check on that in terms of how that would be done. But now I think they want people to put those reviews directly on homes.
Okay. So if I haven't been, right, getting reviews and I'm gonna start,
Yeah.
it might be a good idea for me to push people to my homes.com profile.
Exactly.
To review there, and I don't need a premium membership to do that. I can get reviews as the normal,
Yes, you
average
can get reviews, but then again, you might be sort of at the bottom of the list.
Joe. Now, is there an algorithm for non-premier members that is gonna, if I have more reviews or if I have a more built-out profile?
Not really, I think
if
it's a
better
little bit more, I
headshot?
think it's a little bit more random in that respect,
Okay.
you know, just sort of like, like the member agents will always have the enhanced listing, the bigger bio and kind of more towards the top. And that's essentially, like I said, how the site makes money.
So if I don't have a subscription and I have a buyer client and they look at Mike's listing, they see Mike, right? But if I have the enhanced, then they see mine.
And they connect with you. They have to
Okay.
choose to say like, hey, you are my agent.
Are
They have
you
to,
gonna-
both of those are required, premium and connect, or can I connect
Yeah.
without premium?
You have to have both.
Okay,
Yeah, cool. You have to have, because then that kind of leads into all those tools that are part of membership.
And would the path for me as a buyer agent be to send my client, as we start working together, to basically like a landing page on homes.com so that they can select me?
Yeah.
And are you suggesting that they do that? Or are we suggesting that they do that rather than us putting them on an MLS strip? Or,
I think it's,
Their preference?
there's an and,
okay,
not an
Yeah.
or,
Okay.
right? I mean, know that your client is looking
Yeah,
everywhere,
right.
right? They're on Zillow, they're on your MLS strip, they're driving around the neighborhood on the weekend. The idea here is not to replace any specific platform or tool, but just get this group educated on, I mean, if in 6 months Zillow's traffic is half and it's going here, we want to be ahead of that and where the customer's going. Whether or not we decide to participate, it's just understanding is important. Andrew?
two questions. One, how do houses get on homes.com?
They take a feed from the MLS.
Is that the only way?
We also have a team of researchers that qualify and make sure if there's anything missing, we put it on.
Okay, so people can't like log in and put properties on there. They have to land it. Okay.
You can probably
And then-
submit them to our research, or it would go through a queuing agent, because this goes back to CoStar on the commercial side. We are a research firm at our heart. We have over, I think, 1,000 researchers that, actually call on commercial buildings and they verify that they're correct. Because they just don't want bogus stuff up there. So there is like a little queuing up period.
Okay, and then all the stuff related to membership that you showed briefly, like the neighborhood information and seller information, all that, is that only available to members or?
No, that's for everyone. That's for buyers to come in and see, or sellers.
I thought you
So I
said
encourage you to
there
look
was
at it
like-
now.
There was like the data that was for membership. Is there no data that only members get?
You get an enhanced bio and you can kind of enhance your listings. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So it's like, think of it like a non-paying member has a basic, and then as a member, you get more redirection, you get more advertising, you get more exposure, you get a better way to tell your story.
So I want to get into how the money works real quick, but it's an interesting question because you live right in Chagrin, right? Yeah. And so you may be familiar with the difference between an IDX feed from websites and then vendor-owned websites. Like, do you know, is homes.com hosting Howard Hanna listings?
Yeah, they're all.
Wendy?
So I'm also in the commercial space, and so we use CoStar and apartments.com.
Yeah.
That being said, I didn't realize that CoStar had bought homes.com because I've already been on homes, from the previous owner. But what we love about CoStar is all the great research, because you have all these researchers and that they confirm everything. I mean, the accurate nature of what you get on CoStar is unbelievable, and it has helped our business. Is that transcending into homes? Like, can you get reporting? Is it gonna be? What I'm asking is what CoStar does gonna be kind of fed into homes.com, or are there gonna be researchers just for that?
Philosophically,
Yeah.
yes,
Okay.
Obviously it's a little bit different. You're not gonna be run like analytical reports on the
Right.
sales, but I think there probably will be that opportunity at some point. I mean, I think when you look at a homes.com listing compared to like a Zillow listing, it is so much robust, even on the basic level. I mean, let's take the Zestimate, which everyone hates. It's like, we don't totally solve that, but instead of just giving you one mysterious algorithm, we give you 4 and tell you what their background is, who they are, and you can see this completely different. It gives you much more accurate.
And that's
then-
kind of the CoStar way, really, right? I
And
mean,
make them transparent,
Because I think that's one of the keys that I think a lot of, like a Zestimate is missing,
Yeah.
is the abundant research that CoStar does. Would be great to see it on the residential side.
Well, and think about just the photographs, professional
Yeah.
photographs, so that's a part of the research. We're taking the photographs of parks, schools, local institutions. We had I think it was 20,000 and growing neighborhood videos, which are like drone feeds with like a professional voiceover saying, hey, what a great place this is to live. That isn't like the commercial side traditional research, but that's still research.
Yeah, for sure.
You know what I mean?
Right.
How do, for sale by owners get to put their property on your site?
For sale by owners, that's a good question. That is for a listing agent. We're bringing that on there for comparison, but yeah, I guess they would be listed as the person to contact if they want to, if it's listed that way in the MLS, or is it?
No, they wouldn't land on that.
Yeah, they may not be on there then.
So that doesn't Zillow? For something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you guys?
Yeah.
gonna do that?
I don't have that answer. That's a really good question,
Yeah.
I'm gonna ask that question, and if I get your name, I'll give you an answer, or maybe I should send this answer to send to you.
Yeah, man.
That'd be the most efficient.
Update us on future sale.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me ask this question to the group and, I prepped him, let him know that this was, wasn't gonna be a softball interview. So what concerns do you have? Or what are you, what trepidations do you have about another website, big tech, disrupting real estate? All those wonderful things.
One of, like you said, all these websites, all of here, getting a client to sign up here, look here, go there. That's something that, I don't even wanna do. How do we just I wanna zone, if we're gonna do this, let's zone it all into one thing, and then we have, I don't know, it's just like, it's a lot.
Yeah.
So, it's just,
Yeah.
how do we simplify it to where they don't have, our clients don't have to be here and
Yeah.
there and get an email from this email address and then get an, you know, my MLS is coming, you know, property showing they're coming from this email address, that's not mine, but it says it's linked to mine, you know, so it's a lot. So if they go here, what's gonna show up to, like,
Yeah.
what email address are they receiving our messages from?
Well, I mean, you could connect with them directly, a buyer or seller, but I mean, to your earlier point is, yeah, I think it is confusing, but I think that's all the more important reason for professional realtors and to guide them through this process. And- No, but it's.
Giant budget is gonna help normalize this.
Yeah, it's gonna send people there, and then I think, I encourage, like I said, to look on it now, they're going to find more there. They're gonna find more information, like, I said, I think you said 100% of buyers look at the internet first. I mean, 100% of buyers of anything these days, whether it's cars or whatever, you're gonna start the internet, and, you know, with the marketing campaign, it's gonna bring them there, I think. Due to the content and just the research there, they're gonna stay there, you know. And it's gonna be easier to use.
You can see a version of this where you ask the number of agents who can buy the.
You know, possibly, that's not a decision I would make, but it probably will always be, I don't think we're necessarily want to exclude anyone, but it would obviously be the people who are members who get added, you know, exposure and things like that. Not everyone's gonna be a member, you know, I think you coined it well, there's probably a third of the people who might have their way of doing business that, you know, through their networks, maybe they might not find a need, and there might be another third that is more interested in building their brand and their business, and that might be the third that's really important to us.
Okay, this is, something that I've seen people do on Zillow, because you can type in any property address.
Yeah.
And it comes up, whether it's for sale or not. Click here, I'm getting a phone call, is this property for sale? Look, no, it's absolutely not, well, how can we find out? Then I gotta go, we need a whole nother conversation, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So is that a lead, or is that something like random people inquire,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying, that's a lot of phone calls.
Yeah.
That I can't answer.
Well, you can't pull up a property that's not for sale, all the properties are there, like, you can look up your own.
So on your
But
site,
yeah,
they cannot see properties that are not for sale.
you can see properties that are not for sale, but there's no listing agent or phone number there, you know,
That's
there's
what
nothing there,
they-
it just says this is not for sale.
they-
And, but then there's a link, it tells you what it's worth and all the things that we kind of talked about, the research element of it, like you could still do. Like the 4 different things, you can see what the schools are in this
They're
area.
not gonna click them to a
No.
realtor.
No, because we're realtor and broker focused,
Well,
and there's
that's
no realtor
positive
broker
because
there.
There's some other sites that let them connect to a realtor.
Christina?
Do we go to you directly for membership information or?
yeah. I mean, I'd love to get your name, we can schedule a time, probably want to go do a more of a deeper presentation and things like that.
But don't go on there to like the 1-800, go to you.
No, yeah, if you could go to me, then I could apply the discount that we
Yeah, yeah.
kind of talked about too.
All right, you, and then we'll.
Teams on the app, currently it shows like one listing agent or one buyer agent, and on the MLS you can display two. Is that an option on the app?
Well, it's one realtor, one set of listings. So if you had your listings all under one person and then you had an agreement where it's on, you could do it that way, you know, and then have your photos together. But essentially the model is built on the individual broker as your individual business. So that individual broker would have membership. So, but if you worked as a team, you know, you would say, you could still list that as team, you know, Haskett and have a photo of the two of you, but it would essentially be one membership. You know, you'd be working as one, so the photograph would be, and then you'd want all your listings routed under one person essentially.
Okay.
Mike?
We joined a family reunion, and so 90+%, like I love, it's such a great site. And there's one part of it that I'm not super pumped about, which is when you look at that panel of pro realtors, when you search an area, if you search Jackson, Ohio, my partner, the Rainmaker, has 335 sales that pop up, but she's actually third because it is ranked by total number of sales regardless of where they're at. So I've got people popping up from above Columbus, from all over the place who've had one sale in our area, who are scoring ahead of us. Is there a scenario where they would consider being more area focused on something like that.
Well, how are you searching? There is a filtering mechanism, and what will happen is people need to kind of select an area of expertise and it should filter in, but. I might need to understand a little bit more what you did. You just kind of searched, you searched like Jackson, and it showed like these are the brokers in this area.
This is who pops up, and it's based 100% on total number of sales is the ranking order, not total number of sales in the area.
Yeah.
And so that's almost, it's just a.
Well, I think it's probably something we'll kind of tweak over time. I think you make a really valid point, and, we're gonna continue to improve on that we believe in what is called like customer innovation, customer-driven innovation. So those ideas are exactly right, because we believe it's a local market, it's a local area.
Yeah.
And then the people in that area who have experienced that area should be the ones at the top of it. So,
And the reason I bring it up is because we're probably gonna end up getting that back, but we're gonna pay a referral fee to get a lead that we should have had.
mhm.
Because the person who is 8 counties away isn't gonna come down and service that, but they're gonna,
Yeah.
if they choose them, because they had 900 sales versus 300, that's where it gets.
Well, as a member, you would always be at the top,
Right, we are at the top, but with other members ranked below
Yeah.
that.
So maybe an opportunity for the dev team.
Yep.
Just
Yeah,
just
yeah,
just
easy
how,
to-
how those, how they, the auto sort function works. So best way to get in touch with you?
Yeah, I mean, I should put my name, I should actually put my name up here. I mean, this is my-
Hello, salesman.
Um,
We'll make sure everybody has your
Yeah.
contact information, and but just two things for today, gang. One, know that this is going to be a thing, right? You don't have to participate in everything, right? Like acid wash jeans were a thing. Never got into it. Like you don't have to get on that train. Number two, if you're interested, feel free to explore it with Tim. Download the app, play around, set yourself up as a client, and get the experience. You may like it, or you need to at least understand it.
Yeah.
And that's the goal of today. Cool? All right.
I'll be hanging around, so if you want to talk later, I can give you my contact.
Thank you, Tim. Right, next up, can we have to the main stage, Wendy, Morgan, and Brooke? We're gonna talk. Yeah.
Oh,
Now you're sitting in the
No.
middle, Wendy.
Going between two roses.
All right, guys, real quick, let's do introductions that you likely don't need any, but just in case there's any new folks in the room.
I'm Brooke. I work for the Emmerman team and I kind of co-lead it with Marty Emmerman. I've been in the business kind of off and on since I was 18 years old. So I got started back in 2016. Went to college, worked in marketing here, and then came back after college and have been selling since 21.
Wendy Poltork Dixon. I've been an agent since 2013. I'm mostly an investor. I do listings and buyers as well. But this was my first family reunion and I loved it. So save your money for next year.
Hi, I'm Morgan Curtis. I'm a buyer specialist for the real estate group. I work with J Closure. I got licensed in 2016, so almost 8 years now. It's just scary and crazy. And this was one of many family reunions I've been to. I forget which number it is, maybe 5.
Wow.
We'll unpack that in a few minutes. I wanted to start, I think it was the second question that we'd offered up for you, but there's probably a little more than 50 people in this room today. When you go in the family reunion, let's say for Gary's vision speech, there's 15,000 people. What's that experience like?
It's kind of like camp. It doesn't feel like a conference. You think about a real estate conference, you're like, oh, you gotta sit through 4 hours of a really boring presentation, you're probably gonna be sleeping. But honestly, when you walk in, it's like, it's just a mosh pit of people. Like, we couldn't even get into the area because you had to wait outside, and I actually got separated, Carrie and I, from our group, and we had people standing on chairs, like, there were people waving flags around with like lights on them, and it's pitch black, so you can't see a dang thing.
Sounds very.
And-
No one was harmed.
But it's honestly such a cool experience. Like, you don't realize how big Keller Williams is until you're at something like this. And that's not even like a fourth of the people that are in Keller Williams. So I would say if you have to kind of like crowds because it is a little bit like intense. But you're engaged the whole time because there's just like an energy about it that's so exciting, and people are motivated, they're ready to go, and you kind of like feed off that energy. So it's really cool.
Yeah, that I've been to countless conferences. I've never been to one like this. I think that the energy in the room, like Brooke said, was incredible. I mean, it was incredible. If you weren't awake, you walked in that room, you were awake. Yeah, for sure. And all the different countries. They, at one point, they put up, how many think there were? I lost count.
59.
59 like country flags and introducing, it was incredible. It was this was the coolest thing. I mean, even though we're sitting in the back, I mean, you can't even see the stage. That's how big it is. But the energy was, palpable is what they say, but it was so well done. People were running in like a concert, like at the doors, like waiting. Like my husband and I are like, we'll go later. But it was right. It was just, the energy was crazy.
Yeah, just to pair it. I mean, that's why I keep going back. I love the energy, especially this time of year. We kind of go through a little winter slump. Post holidays, everyone's tired, we need to like amp up for spring. And it's incredible. I love also the connection. I've met some really great agents and being able to see them and just connect with them or meet new people during the smaller breakouts. Yeah, and I like to learn, so I like going and really just feed off of, Gary's, magical mind.
Well, let's talk about that. We'll stay with you, Morgan, and bring it back around. But the start of day 2, it kicks off with Gary Keller giving his vision speech, which I borrowed slides from, part of his slides for my presentation this morning. Big takeaways, the way that you're now thinking about the market, like in what ways did he sort of shift your thinking?
Really the focus on just, and I also went to one of those, the leverage 2 or whatever it was.
Value squared.
Yeah, that one. I got the chair. Sorry, in the wrong place. So my biggest thing, with the buyer rep agreement, that's something I've been off and on using, and it's really the importance of using that and really putting that into your business. And also just bringing your value, like when you're on listing appointments, not even just buyer appointments, but on listing appointments, which I'm starting to do more of, you really need to show your value, you need to continue and to show it, stay in contact, all that kind of stuff. It was also really interesting as well to see just the percentage. I was actually surprised with what people were commenting before when you were asking questions about why people are motivated to buy. Just think it was shocking just to be like, I want to own a house. Not because I need to upsize because my family's changing or I got a new job or this is too much space. So that was really the breakdown of that was really interesting for me. Also too being again on more of the buy side. So the more you know your client, really the better you can service them. So yeah.
Yeah, I think with the vision speech, I love the statistics. I mean, those slides, I use the slides from last year, they're awesome. I mean, I think it's just really nice to know exactly kind of where you stand as a nation, honestly, when it comes to buyers and sellers. But I think every time I listen to Gary, it's utilize your own strengths, right? We all have different strengths, and him and his team always focus on what's your strength, like what do you bring that no one else brings, right? What can you offer them that maybe no one else can? What's your strength, and build upon that. Don't try, like I said before, don't try to be somebody that you're not, right? Take the things out that work for you and then build on those with your personality, what you bring to the table. I mean, I think him and his team does a great job. I think that's really how he started the business, right? Was like, what are you bringing and what do I need to do to help you be a better agent with, right? He's always spoken about that. And
Yeah, I
I
mean-
think that every vision speech, he makes sure that he lets you know, like, utilize what your strength is and build on that.
Well, and I think that that's, really the roots of his teachings on leverage are not about like find ways to work less. It's about like identifying that there are some things, Wendy, that you are not gonna be best in the world at, but you could hire somebody to be best in the world at it.
Right.
Right? And then that makes you better. I mean, from time to time throughout the 42-year history of our 43-year history of our company, Gary has hired multiple people to be the CEO of the company. Right? Think about that as a form of leverage for what the company needs and when they need it. And I think it's understanding your own limitations.
Sure.
And the same thing can be true about all that data that we put up there. Like there are things that you can go get educated on, or that you can hire it. Are you terrible at paperwork? Hey, Liz, right? Are you not good at one piece of the puzzle? Like maybe there's a partnership. Oh, I don't understand titles. I need help with the mortgage side. That isn't, you don't have to be the master of everything.
I think for me, like, just to reiterate the buyer rep agreement,
These are not paid actors. I swear.
He was like, "Love the old man." But like so Nancy like honestly never used it. And she was like, it's a waste of time. Don't worry about it. Like, you don't need it. And so that was my mentality around it. And I guess like the lawsuits obviously have shifted some things for me of like, okay, we need to be a little bit more intentional. But also like the minute I got home, I have had 2 buyer rep agreements signed this week. Not a single person has looked at me and thought like, they haven't asked any questions. They've just been like, oh yeah, I'll sign this. Like, of course I will. And it's like, how often do we go to other people for their expertise and their business? And like, we are expected to sign things and we do it because that's the expectation, but like, we don't do that as realtors. And it kind of like flipped this thing for me. And it's like, why wouldn't I ask for someone to be on my team and know that I'm going to work as hard for them. So I expect them to be loyal to me. Like, that just makes sense. But we got in the habit of not doing it and just like taking the easy way out. And it's like, now we're paying for it a little bit. So I think that was like my biggest takeaway. And honestly, like people, like I said, they don't think twice. And then secondly, he said something that I thought was really good, but they said you have to be good at educating and get into the prevention business and not the cure business. And it's like, we are, oftentimes we're putting out fires, like how well and how good can we be at putting out these fires, but it's like, how can we prevent the fires in the first place? And I think that was like a thing that switched in my mind of like, okay, I know the objections, I know what people are gonna say, like, how can I combat those things before we even get to that problem? And then, they're more confident in me and, ultimately I'm more confident in myself, so. Yeah.
I love that. I love that. And I wanna, you and I had a conversation just yesterday about a potential buyer client that you had. Can you talk a little bit about that? Cause I think your focus on the buyer rep agreement is not necessarily about getting a piece of paper signed. It's about owning client relationships. So you had a friend who was going to see a house or something.
Yeah, so I got an Instagram DM, tell my generation communicating.
I get a ton of those, by the way.
And so my friend was like, hey, I see your stuff that you post, like we're thinking about buying. And usually when I get that text, it's like, okay, I'm gonna, let's set up a meeting in a couple days and I'll go through my presentation and we can talk about it, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, oh, actually, today I have a showing scheduled with another agent that was booked. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So now my previous self probably would have hesitated and kind of like drawn within and been like, okay, like, let me know how that goes. And then, we can have a conversation. But instead I was like, hey, I really, feel good about a relationship that we could have. I really want to help you. I've known you forever. I'll make the appointment. All I need you to do is sign my buyer rep agreement. It's just for, legality purposes. And then I'll show you the house. I'll set it up. I can tell the other agent, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, yeah, that'd be great. I actually want you to do that. And so, like, instead of just hesitating and kind of being like, you know, people may or may not want my services, it's like, no, she reached out to me. I have a service I can provide her and I need to be confident in that. And people see that and I think they respect it and I don't know, they respect you more.
Yeah, like 89% of people use a real estate agent to buy a house, so like they are more likely than not, in a very dramatic way, to need your help, right? And specifically. So is family reunion, is it just like we sit in a room with 15,000 people for 5 days? Okay, what's like, walk me through, like, there's these things called breakouts, what all's going on?
So the breakout, so yes, there's a lot of big family time with the 15,000 agent, Gary, and or whoever he's brought to speak. But the majority of the reunion and also like bank camp and also smaller events. But you have all these things called breakouts. And so it's kind of, it reminded me of college, like, you know, you choose which ones you want to go to, which classes, you know, maybe if you were following a specific agent that you like from another state. I know there's a few that I follow. You know, it's a topic, if you're trying to focus on something and then, you know, this spring or, you know, moving forward, like, do you want to power through on your listings? How do you make a better listing presentation? Okay, go find a Jeff Booker one, like, go find, you know, someone who's an expert in that. You know, if you're looking at marketing, which a lot of the ones I end up going to were surrounded by that, like, there are certain players that I know I want to learn from or panels. So, you know, there's like every topic under the sun, there's gonna be a breakout for you. And regardless if you're brand new, been licensed for a week, or you've been doing this for 25 years, you know, if there's something for you, and you're gonna get a lot of good nuggets out of it.
So, well, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, it's okay.
I was gonna say, what did you attend and what were some of your nuggets?
So I went to a few listing ones. I went to a lot of marketing breakouts. I think actually from Jay Pakistan, from one class that really was, you know, honing in on using the buyer rep agreement because we got yelled out about it.
It wasn't that bad.
But, you know, while he was talking about that and really, you know, how to present it, and I've used them before, so I'm not unfamiliar with them. But really, I mean, showing your value and communicating, and a lot of the breakouts I went to, it's just like, be on top of your communication. Like, I know I communicate a lot, but how can I communicate more? Maybe more effectively, maybe a little bit differently, you know, if we're on cruise control during a deal, like, how can I check in with, like, feeling like I feel pretty, you know, just want to touch them and just make sure everything's going well. But then also too, what I want to focus on is the conversations post the transaction, you know, over the years, and how's it going? Not just, you know, the regular like little mailers that we do, or, you know, it's like lighter touches or some social media. So stuff like that was what I was more intrigued by.
Wendy?
Well, me and my husband went, and we are not traditional real estate agents, but there was so many breakouts to choose from. I mean, like, it was overwhelming, and I focused on marketing, because I'm not really a listing or a buyer's agent. I mean, I am a listing agent because I list my own house, but my husband went to a lot of the wealth building ones, right? The ones that had to do with either tax stuff or your exit strategy, or there were so many, you guys. It's not just, it wasn't like, here I am an investor and I didn't go to the builder show, you know, which I could have done, you know, at the Hilton or the convention center. The nuggets for me, I mean, I wish David was here too, but for David, he learned a lot about exit strategy because we're in our 50s. So we're looking to, you know, level out, not level in, you know, so like some of the ways that you can do that, you know, additional ways that we can build wealth, whether it's through referrals or through profit share here, or just in general through commercial or passive investing. So he learned a lot about that. For me, I'm not, you know, some people who know me here seem to be like, I'm in your face, but I'm really, I don't love to be like on social media on a video. I don't watch videos very often, but I went to one by Rory Vaden or Vaden.
Oh my God.
He's awesome. He does branding. Him and his wife do branding as their business, but doing a once a week 6-minute video on a question or a problem that you can solve for somebody, right? And in my world, that's, how do you flip a house? How do I passive invest? If I want to buy my first property, what do I do? So I even went to Chat GPI and I just said, list 10 questions on someone who wants to flip a home, it's hurdles. And then, Chat GPT, gave me a list of things and then I adjusted them. And then turning that video, putting it on YouTube, turning that video into social media posts, turning that video into a vlog, turning that video into a podcast, which I thought was like, we don't do a podcast, but you can actually pull the audio and put it on a podcast app and promote that. I thought by far, marketing wise, that was one of the best things that I learned. I also did a lot of command breakouts because I was all in command in 2017 and then I quit. And I told a lot of the leaders of that area that I was, and I said, command is terrible. I use Cyberbacker. My poor Cyberbacker has tried to use command for a number of things and it is not easy to use for what I want to use it for, right? So we talked about that, of labs coaches, and we have a regional girl, Sarah, who's gonna be here, I think in April, right, Barry? She'll be here in April. I encourage everybody to come or at least find out about it because there are things that they're working on with the CRM and the marketing. But I went to all of those breakouts because I'm paying all this extra money using all these other tools, right? And I'm not using the tool that we're paying $20 extra a month now, right? Because there's so many more enhancements. Okay, I want to see them. What am I paying $20 a month extra for? I want to know and I want to use it. So, but the breakouts, I mean, I'm just telling you, no matter what area of real estate you're in, this family reunion, there's something for you.
I want to double click on the Rory Vader
Yeah.
piece for a minute because, and remember, you're gonna get all these slides from the vision speech. But all of those slides, anytime it says somebody is, a first-time home buyer, there's 13 weeks worth of videos about what a first-time home buyer doesn't understand. Gary Keller and Jay Papazan wrote a book called Your First Home about being a first-time home buyer that you could generate, whether you don't like being in front of the video. Rory Vader's argument is like, record the video yourself, and then there's 3 different AI tools that will transcribe it into blog posts, will cut it up into different audio clips, will make it into an Instagram reel. If you do those things, right, think path of the customer, right? What are the questions your clients are asking and how do you answer them, right? I think Brooke made the point about like, hey, I know what people want. I'm a trusted asset. I'm going to handle these objections before they even become objections, right? I'm gonna prevent fires, not cure them.
Well, and don't feel like you have to write, like I told David, I'm like, okay, we have to have 52 questions. 52 weeks, like go, use AI.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not joking, use AI, like, what are the 10 most common questions buyers ask when, AI will go and search for the answers or those questions and the answers to those questions.
Yeah,
I mean, try to answer them yourself, but I'm telling you, my sister introduced me to Chat GPT and I'm like, it's just rewriting marketing. It's just simple stuff, blogging, you don't have to sit and write a blog, come up with the ideas of what you want the blog to say and throw it into chat. You're not, it's not like you're in school and, they're not gonna allow it. Use it. I'm just saying, use AI. I was afraid of AI, just like, like.
Terminator 2?
Yeah.
Yeah. We all.
That's my generation. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Brooke, your breakouts and takeaways.
Yeah, so I went to a social media one and I went to a lot of different ones. I tried to piece together things that I'm, currently struggling with as a young agent. And so social media is obviously a big component. I think for any age though, social media is so powerful. And that is that's the new form of mouth to mouth. That's just
Face to face. It's one lead generation. Word of mouth.
proud, yeah. Okay. All right, anyway, the thing that I took away from it though, is like, no one is thinking about you as much as you think about you. And we get so in our heads, like even for me, social media is a big part of my life. It has been for a long time, but like, I get so in my head of, oh my gosh, this video isn't perfect. What I said isn't exactly the way I thought it should be in my head. And honestly, the more that you do something, it doesn't really matter how perfect it is. And most people, authenticity is the key today. People their BS meters are so high. Like young people they know how to spot a sales pitch. And they even did this experiment in one of our big sessions where, was it, who's the one who did it? Robbins.
No.
Which one? No.
Tony Robbins?
Tony, he basically called someone up and he's like, pitch to me if you want to use me. And the guy went on his like rant that obviously was very practiced. And he's like, you can be this agent, you can be this agent, and I'm this agent, I'm gonna do this, this, and this for you. And this is in front of 15,000 people. So obviously this guy was kind of put on the spot a little bit. And he's like, okay, so who in the audience would use this guy? And literally no one raised their hand. And it was tough.
The guy's mom was in the audience. What?
Tough. And so we're all kind of like, oh my gosh, it's so bad for him. But like that's how we sound to people. And I think that was a big like aha moment for me. And then he's like, okay, talk to me like I'm someone you care about, you love. And the guy kind of like sat for a second and it, it was quiet and kind of awkward. But then he's like, I care about you and I want to help you and I want to help you achieve whatever goals you have and I'm going to protect you and blah, blah, blah. And at the end of it, he was like, okay, so who in the audience would use him? And literally every single person raised their hand. And I think it just speaks to the fact that we have to be authentic in everything we do. Yep. And we can't just be these rehearsed robots that it's like, buy a house for me because I'm going to do this and this and this for you. And it's like, no, we have to actually listen to people. And, we think they're going to say one thing, but if they say another, like, how do we pivot from that? And how do we, yes, we have to know our stuff. We have to practice our stuff. But at the same time, we're not always listening. And I think that's like one of the big takeaways. And in the social media panel, like they talk about that all the time. They're like, people can see if you're authentic or not. So be authentic on your social media. And then another thing, I ended up in this success blueprint from top agents, and it was like expanding big businesses. I mean, these people are doing like millions of dollars a year in deals and they're making millions of dollars. And their mistakes were like the same as like the small individual agents. And one of the things they were talking about is how like we got to know where our numbers are coming from. We got to know our P&Ls. We got to know what's working, what's not, because we might think something's working, but if we're not actually looking at our numbers, where they're coming from, where we're getting them, like we actually don't know our business at all. And so we need to understand from that perspective, like where we actually are and how we can improve on the things that aren't working or keep doing the things that are. And then another thing that kept getting repeated over and over again is like, do not try to be good at everything all at the same time. Like so often we are constantly like, oh, we need to be this agent and this agent, and we need to get good at this and this and this. And it's like information overload. We're like hesitant to do anything because there's too many things we have to be perfect at. And they kept saying, start here, get good at this, and then move on to the next thing. Get good at that, and then move on to the next thing. And before you know it, you are good at a lot of different things, but you didn't start with everything all at the same time. And I like personally, that was a big like moment for me where I'm like, because in my business, I'm trying to be good at a bunch of things at the same time right now. And I don't think we can be good at anything if we try to do it that way.
I think that's.
Does anybody else feel that way real quick? Anybody else feel like they've got to be good at a bunch of stuff all at once?
Yeah.
Like
I used to feel that way before I moved to Keller Williams. One of the
Right.
reasons why was because of exactly those overwhelming things, that other brokerages are not helping you organize these thoughts and everything that goes on into a business. So they say, come have a career in real estate, but run your business too. Well, hell, how do I do that?
Right.
So it's, you know what I'm saying? But then it's like, oh, well, be a divorce agent, go look for tax abatements, judgments, and you know what I mean? Like dig here, dig there, for self-owned owner. So it's like, what the heck? What do I do?
Real quick, let me interject too,
Yeah.
because what she said, and one of the events or one of the breakouts I went to was Jason Abrams was the speaker. And he said, take what you like and go find those people by doing that. Like this one lady, he said her MAPS coach and she liked to day drink. That's exactly what he said. And she lived in a like a.
I live in Florida. I
She
think
lived-
it's very common down there. It's actually a sport.
Right. She liked to go out during the day. She would go out from like noon to 2 and she'd go to whatever, the where the locals hung out and she'd get to know everybody. And that's where her database came. They were talking about doing a wine event once a month or once a week, or hey, we're gonna go to this watering hole every Wednesday. Community or neighborhood, if you wanna come, we're just gonna hang out. It doesn't have to, what it is, golfing, everybody said, you make deals on the golf course, but anything, pickleball, anything book club, anything you like to do, you have a farm there.
It also ties into bold too, like when you
Yeah.
focus on expand.
Yeah.
It's real.
It's
You know,
real,
I'm like, I've learned all these same lessons too in past breakouts and still continuing to hear them. It's always reinforcing, but I like to attract a buyer or a seller who may be similar to me because we're gonna have similar interests and it makes it a little bit of a softer landing. And if you truly just focus on if you just start with what you like,
Yeah.
it's going to expand your business.
Yep.
Like it's real.
Well, there's a really nice thread to pull through all that, because you were talking about authenticity, you're talking about building community, and you're talking about growing your business, and it's all one. Like, how different do you appear? How different do you appear on the golf course, right, than you do maybe in a listing presentation, right? Or when you're trying to, in a call booth lead generate, right? People are, you're in the setting that you are warm and attractive and inviting. Like that's where you want to meet people and engage with people. You'll display authenticity. You'll do something you like. It won't feel like as much like work, and then you'll grow your business.
Yep, 100%.
Makes me happier to talk about real estate. It's easier to talk about
Yeah.
real estate.
And you're comfortable,
Yeah.
you're comfortable with.
That word comfort is the biggest one.
Yes,
Big-
everybody wants comfort,
Yeah.
everybody.
Guys, you're like, whether it feels like it day in and day out, you are in the most fascinating business to everybody who doesn't have a
Yeah.
license.
That's true.
Like the number of times that you want to tear the thing up, or you don't want to, the deal makes you pull out your resume and be like, well, I wonder how much I can take. The thing is, to everybody else in your ecosystem, your job is fascinating. Right? And there is real estate's in the news, it's good for business, I promise you. Because people are gonna go, oh, what's going on with this? What's going on with that? What's going on with this? And that's where we become educators. All right, so Morgan.
Yep.
You are a storied alumnus of the family reunion experience. I want you to articulate for the group, why go back every year?
I mean, really, it's it's kind of like when you take hold a few times, it's the reinforcement, like it might be going back to basics. I mean, I truly think the energy is really huge for me. I feel like I go through like the holiday slump and just so, being able to just know it's coming, I get amped. I mean, you can ask anybody like, well, I'm very excited. It's nice to be able to just take a break and like you're still doing your job, but you're doing it in a different way because you're learning. And then I get to bring all that value back to my clients. And like while I'm there, I'm telling them I'm learning, a lot of times in the past, like during the vision speech, like they'll put up different slides that I think are fascinating. So I'll put that on my social media, just so what my clients are seeing, I'm not just twiddling my thumbs while waiting for my next deal or showing, I'm going to learn. And just, I can't harp on energy enough. That really drives me into the spring for the rest of the year. Same thing with mega camp. I feel like once we get through spring, everyone's exhausted. We want to go on summer vacation, everything like that. But then mega camp, it's like, okay, no, we got this. There's still a few months left in the year. Like, how many more deals can you do? And like, here are new tools or just some, reinvestment of things you already know to get there. And it's really helped me. I've seen it help year after year with my business. And again, too, it's just nice to really hone in. And I don't know, it's interesting to be with 15,000 people.
It's exciting. I want to pull a nugget out of that, right? We saw a slide where 88% of consumers get their information from their real estate agent, right? Remember that slide? So how impactful is it to tell your client, even on a day like today, right? You took your morning, you're not prospecting, you're not out showing homes, you're getting more educated for who? For your client.
Right.
So don't be shy about, even on a day like today, just posting like, oh my God, got all this, great data today, or heard from a great panel, whatever it is, as a way to demonstrate to your clients that you are a subject matter expert and you have the most up-to-date information to help them in today's market. We didn't review 2018 data, right? We interviewed right now's data. And so that's for this year. Wendy and Brooke, first timers.
Yeah, I mean.
Would you go again?
Yeah, I'm going next year. So, and it's in Vegas again.
It is in Vegas.
Guys, I have multiple businesses. I never went. It was either bad timing. I was out of town somewhere else. There were a number of reasons. Two things I'll tell you. It's not cheap, right? Okay, so that's important to know, but you can put money aside and from every commission check starting today for next year to go. You can get the discounted rate. Save up your money to go. For all the years I've been in business, in any business, you do not want to be the smartest person in the room. If you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. So this is an opportunity for you to go listen to some of the smartest people in this industry, no matter what it is that you're looking for. So save your money and go. I'm ashamed that I hadn't gone, except for this time, and I paid for 2 people to go, right? Me and my husband went, and
David said he paid.
Well, yeah. But I will tell you that not only is it great to be amongst 15,000 people from around the world, but our team actually had an amazing evening together in a party bus going to Don's family, Don Jarecki's family, has restaurants on there. We had a great night, and just the camaraderie but in our brokerage and the 40 some people of us that were there was absolutely amazing. And I think that alone is worth saving your money and go. I loved it. I really wish I would have gone sooner, but I'm glad I did. And you can't look at the past, you gotta look at the present and the future. That's right.
Yeah, so it's my first time too, and I've never been to Vegas, so that was kind of a pull a little bit. But that was, I will say too, it makes you have a lot of pride in who you work for. And I think when we go on listing appointments and we talk to buyers and stuff, like I have had objections that I've dealt with where people are talking and they win because of how they spoke about their company that they work for. And I think a lot of times we're taught, oh, it doesn't, it's people hire you based on you, not your company. And I think that is true a lot of the time, but I think there's more that we can be doing to talk about who we are as Keller Williams individuals. And there's a lot to be said for it. And I posted some stuff that I went down there and I had a lot of people ask me how it was. And then that in turn turned into a real estate conversation about the market. And so it's like what Mike was saying, people see that you're educating you, and so they're more likely to trust you because, all these other professionals we go to, they're constantly educating as well. Sure. And when we see that online, it's like, oh, they're up to date. Like, I'm going to go to them instead of this other agent that I've known for 10 years, but maybe hasn't really been doing business. Like, we look more in the know, we look more competitive, and I just think, like, overall, it's good for business. Yes, you have to spend a little bit of money to get there. But yeah, you can win it back if you want.
Not recommend. But it can be a tax write-off, right?
Yeah.
It can be a tax write-off, so, spend the money on yourself, not on the government. And that's a great point, being a company of models and systems, you could take even our regular sales meeting, the framework that we use, or even today's meeting as a model. Right? What if you started your listing presentations and your buyer consultations with these are the values of my company.
Yeah.
And this is what you can expect from me throughout a transaction. It's gonna be a win-win or no deal. I'm gonna operate with integrity, and I'm gonna do the right thing. And so on and so on, right? So, you know, and then that would maybe speak volumes versus the company who doesn't. So, there's a ton going on there. You guys have, downloaded gobs of information. I saw notebooks full. What's the one thing you're coming back, you came back 10 days, ago, right? Got back maybe, 10 days ago or so. What are you putting into play? What are you putting into practice? What's the one thing that we're gonna, a year from now, be like, damn, you know, Wendy's on a panel, that family reunion, because she's doing this so well.
I'll start with me.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a big believer in this already in my own life, but Tony Robbins, I would probably have never gone to pay the money to go like see him speak on his own. Not that he's not any good, he's amazing. But I got to see him. That was very cool. What you focus on becomes your life, right? What you focus on is your experience. And that is so huge just as a human being, right? If you're gonna focus on how the, interest rates are still high and the market's this and the market's that, that's what you're gonna get, right? If you focus on the skills that you have and the company that you work for and the person that you are and the business you want to create and the life you want to lead, that is what will manifest in your life. That by far of anything that I took away, it's the reiteration of that. What you focus on becomes your life. What you focus on becomes your life, and make the moves to create the life you want.
I
Not
feel
the
bad
life
we
you
didn't
don't
end
want.
on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I talked to an agent just yesterday. And just, hadn't heard from a while, checked in, I said, how's your business? And they said three things. One, nobody I know is moving until after the presidential election, interest rates, or they won't move until interest rates come down or inventory goes up. Now, here's the fact. We've all known a presidential election's been coming since,
4 years ago.
4 years ago, right? Number two, interest rates are lower than they were 12 months ago. Number three, there's more inventory on the market today than there was 12 months ago. So the difference between that person's world and the world that somebody, I mean, who has a listing that's gotten multiple offers? Yeah, it looks like people are maybe moving, right? Despite interest rates. So that's such a powerful point, Wendy. Like, because there are people who are gonna make millions of dollars this year selling real estate, and there's people who are gonna say it's a tough racket.
I think it's like grocery prices. I mean, it's selling into whatever the prices of life is right
Yep.
now, and the interest rates too. They're gonna settle into it because they're not gonna drastically go back down to 3%.
100%. Yeah.
All right, Morgan, Brooke, who wants to go next?
Hello. I think the thing I'm really gonna focus on is just the continuing my communication and reconnecting with some of my maybe first, the clients who maybe I was afraid of because I was a baby agent, really lean in, maybe it's, it's obviously always really uncomfortable to start doing something that maybe you should have been doing the whole time. So just gonna lean into that and really reconnect with people is my goal for the next year. And then also just like another nugget that I got, I was thinking about, especially with the Tony Robbins thing. He said something and I shared this at our little WG family event. We did ahas, and like one of my biggest ahas just from the entire week that we were there was from Tony Robbins, and he said, you need to, along with what she was saying, but how do you take your worst day and make it your best day? So like going in with that attitude and being like, okay, like I'm having a really weird day. These agents, maybe I'm working with aren't being the nicest to me, or deals going up, preventing things. What can I do to turn it around and then really come out on top and make it successful? So maybe if that's starting at the day level, or even if it's an hour per hour situation, but really going with that to just have a more positive year ahead and do well and do more.
I think in general for me, I guess right now I'm at this place where I feel like I'm competing against time. Like I'm super young, so it doesn't make any sense, okay? But I say that because like I feel like I have to be at a certain point by a certain time in my life. And maybe I'm not where I think I should be right now. And that's like a tough thing mentally to get through, and it can really like lower our confidence. And that's something I've struggled with recently. And I think at the end of this, you know, Mel Robbins, when she was speaking, she's like at 30, 40 years old, she was in $800,000 worth of debt and she was like basically bankrupt. And now, you know, 10, 15 years later, look where she is. And it's like, we can do anything we want to do in any amount of time. We just have to have like the positive outlook on it. And it's like, we're not racing against anything. Like we all have our own timelines. We all have our own like worlds we live in. And so it's like taking that pressure off, but also at the same time believing that we can do anything and not just like having that mental block of, oh my gosh, I'm not where I am, so I'll never get there, or I'm not where I want to be, so it's not possible for me. Because anything's possible, you just have to work hard for it and believe that you can.
Right, because what you focus on.
Exactly. So kind of like what Wendy was saying, but
Yeah, for sure.
that's like a mental shift that I think like I've had to make, and it helps me see everything in a little bit more positive of a light. And like it's cool going forward because now I don't feel like so stressed all the time. Like, oh my gosh, I have to do this by this time. It's like, no, I'm gonna work toward it and I'm gonna accomplish my goals, but whatever happens, happens. So
Yeah, awesome.
I love that. We'll end on that. We will also share your contact information because I feel like you are going to hear throughout the course of the next 6 months about things like Bold and Mega Camp, and then you're gonna hear about Family Reunion again. I think it's really important, connect with an agent who's experienced it, and then real quick, just raise your hand if you were at Family Reunion this year. All right, so all those hands that went up, those are also people you can talk to about the experience, just to get get the ground floor experience and not just Mike is a corporate shill. Thank you, ladies, so much. So what's great is, Wendy brought up a point that you never want to be the smartest person in the room, if so you're not in the wrong room. And because we have so many talented people in our company, I never have to be concerned about that, especially on a day like today, whenever we get to talk to Coby Socher. So I'm gonna have Coby run on up here. Yay, Coby! That was a long way of saying Coby's a lot smarter than I am. Okay? How are you? So, yeah, I figured we both said. So, first of all, Coby, tell everybody who you are.
Coby Socher. I'm co-owner of the Socher team, and I'm the owner and CEO of Speedy Offers, which is a cash acquisition offer company.
Awesome. And this was Family Reunion number what for you? 8?
Yeah, 8 over 13 years, I think.
All right, so you've been in the business 13 years, you've been with Keller Williams 13 years.
So Keller Williams for 11 years.
Okay.
About 11 years.
Nice, that's nice. How's that been for you?
Pretty good.
Pretty good. Awesome.
Figured that started when I was 13.
Yeah. So, 8 family reunions, and, we had Morgan up here, who I think has been to maybe as many, but, why do you keep going back? Like, it's an investment, you got a lot, you're running 2 companies now, like, why spend the time?
I think, does everybody know what the purpose, the new Keller Williams, they came out with like their purpose, right? Does anybody know what the purpose? Like, it's like there's the Y4C2T, mission, vision, values. Does everybody know what the purpose is though? Anybody? To fund the perfect life. Maybe, but the newest thing they just came out with.
They might have only released it to super cool people.
It says purpose. Right under it says where entrepreneurs thrive. Has everybody heard that?
Yeah.
So I'm sitting here with a company that's not the Keller Williams company, technically, right? And yet they created a company where entrepreneurs thrive. Most companies create a company where you create something that's a little bit outside of it and they like skirt you out. Right? And our company has created something where they like help you like lift it up. And so to me, there's this continuous opportunity inside Keller Williams to grow and learn. And the people inside there are doing things that no other companies people are doing. You go to the top companies in the country, and they have people that are selling a ton of real estate, but not a ton of people that are growing multiple different businesses within the same world.
Yeah.
So to me, just to kind of, why, I guess you said like, why did I go? Like, there's stuff to learn from every single angle. That's why I'm here.
As you go year in and year out, you bump into the same people.
Yeah.
Right? You go there to see people.
You
right?
kind of know your people after time.
Yeah, it's one of the neat things. It was very intentional. Right, when we started doing this, Mo Anderson was our CEO, and it was, what does everybody else have? Convention, right? But we're not a company that has conventions. We're a family that has reunions.
And I thought that was kind of weird at the beginning.
It's definitely weird, guys. Until you see it and feel it, it's a little weird.
It felt weird at the beginning. I'm like, this is, you like tell you people around you, you're going to something called family reunion, you just think you're like in this weird cult. And then you start like seeing the way everybody treats everybody.
Yeah.
Like Jason Abrams, who's a buddy of mine, he's on like the main stage always. And, he wasn't always on the main stage, he was just a realtor in Michigan. And afterwards, he just jumps off stage and is just like talking to people, hanging out. Then he walks through like the exhibit hall. Then he's just like, I don't know, like it's just the same. Like everybody treats everybody the same there, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
Kind of like our company.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, Jason's the vice president of the company, and Coby just gets to casually refer to him as his bud. And any of you could as well.
Well,
right?
any of us could become the vice president of the company. I mean, there's a realtor in Michigan
Yeah,
selling
right up
an
the road.
average of $170,000 houses, becomes a vice president of Keller Williams International.
Yeah. So, real quick, before we dive into what you talked about and what your experience was, you were on a panel, but you've got to pop into some other ones as well. Do you, watch any, other presentations? What were your highlights, outside of, selling out a room full of 300 people for yourself?
There's so many cool things. I think, so I started off there's a CEO summit. So the CEO summit is the Sunday, prior to the actual Keller Williams event. I went there, didn't have a ticket, snuck in the back door, and sat next to Mike. And there was just some mind-blowing stuff, like they brought out, and they didn't bring out any realtors. They just brought out like different company owners. There was a doctor talking about longevity. There was a Cody, anybody knows Cody Sanchez? She's like the buy boring businesses influencer. She's incredible. There were so many different things, and I was sitting there going like, this is so cool that instead of a company, again, going back to this thing where entrepreneurs thrive, instead of this thing where they want to only keep you in your lane, right? Has anybody ever had a career or job person, a teacher, someone who tried to always keep them in their lane? Like when I say their lane, I'm not just talking about like their actual, their life. I'm talking about like just keep you down a little bit. Keller Williams is like, no, let's do the opposite. Let's show you what a really big world looks like. And maybe you can go do that too if you choose. Like that's kind of cool.
It's huge.
I took a really Steve LaVega.
Yep.
Is really cool dude. He owns Keller Mortgage. He had a whole panel on ancillary businesses. The average person sitting there had made over $1.5 million in net profit from ancillary businesses. Aside from there, and I was just like, okay, this is like just weird stuff. Like, right, like just, somebody had created a handyman app and somebody had created there's just so many different things. And I was like, okay, so it kind of opens your brain. And then, I mean, we're about to talk to him, right? But
wow, man, I'm a little nervous.
Walked over to the fellow stage and I was like, holy crap, this guy built his own stage, or they built him a stage. And there's people we were there together, like just packed, waiting, like squeezing in the main exhibit.
Two fights broke out.
We do not condone.
Ryan, you want to just come up here as well? Ryan,
I also did not, I didn't build anything. There is nothing handy about anything that I'm capable of doing.
So, real quick, we'll jump into a little conversation with Ryan first, but Coby, this was your room. Massive. I think over 300 people, wouldn't you say?
I was trying to count from the back and I think there was over 600.
Over 600.
Capacity was 500 and there's people on the floor.
That's right. That's right. Fire marshal was not alerted, which typically happens at these family reunion breakouts. Like they'll come and they'll just be like, all right, you guys are shut down. That didn't happen because the fire marshal walked in and heard Coby. And we're like, I'll allow it. Actually. Yeah, exactly. So what was this panel about, Coby?
So it's talking about demographic farming. And I'm pretty sure that the reason why I was put on this panel is because they're like, oh, this kid's from Ohio. Like the word farm, they see a kid from Ohio, they're just like. But we were talking about like geographical and demographic marketing, which is exactly what I do to bring an off-market opportunity, which then in turn feeds our listing inventory. And so talking about like the mailing campaigns that we do, talking about how we go about marketing, talking about who we're speaking to, how to do it in an ethical way, how to make it done right, and all that kind of stuff. So it was just a panel in that world. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So you have something, I think you talked about it on the panel. I know you and I have talked about it before. It's called your deal hierarchy.
Yeah.
Can you explain what that is?
Yeah, I actually have this Katie here. Katie, if you want, I have like a flyer I was gonna give out that has it essentially. But essentially what we do is, you don't have to, we could do that at the end, Katie. But essentially what I've set up in our world is going back. So Speedy Offers is an acquisition company, right? And the way that we acquire property isn't that we just go buy anything. It's that we figure out exactly what we buy. So we buy, and the reason why I created Speedy Offers is because everybody said, do what you know best. And what I know best are mediocre homes on the east side of Cleveland, right? Isn't that we all pretty much know? I don't know crypto, I don't know stocks, I don't know multifamily that well, I don't know apartments that well, I don't know, but what I do know, that's my lane, right? But how do you go really deep in that lane? So I used to represent a ton of investors, and at some point I realized I wanted to become the investor. And I wanted to become like the best investor and the easiest investor to work with. Because every investor, in my opinion, kind of sucks, right? They back out of deals, they retrade deals, they, create all these headaches. And so what I do is create the deal hierarchy. And essentially the way it works is I figure out exactly for each property what makes the most sense. So we acquire a property, get a contract for a property, and then does it make sense to flip the property, hold it as a rental, put it as a note, resell it with owner financing? Does it make sense to, sell it to another investor in my, world? And so by I have about 5 different disposition opportunities within that property, and it allows me to look at a lot of property. To give you an idea.
And those are all above list the property.
Yeah, well, those are all above listed properties. So the last step, well, we start with listing the property, like offering them, does it make more sense for you to list it? And, we end with that. And the whole thing is along the way is we tell them, look, you can make more money if we put this on the market. Yeah, if your goal is to click the easy button and you want a simple sale and you want a cash deal and a quick close and whatever other nuance they want, if they want to stay in the home for 30 days post closing, whatever it is, we're happy to make a cash offer to you what makes more sense. And so that's kind of how we work. And this year so far, we've done about 36 properties. Nice.
It's interesting, you bring that up, and I want to go back to, you talked about Cody Sanchez, who we heard talk, and she talks about buying boring businesses, and she was a Wall Street analyst who then started to buy laundromats and vending machines and started to, demonstrate what it looks like to own a business like that. But she said, when you're buying a business, not too dissimilar from buying a house, there are 3 things that are factors: price, terms, and conditions, remember? And so for your clients, like the terms of like a quick close might be the most important thing to them, and they've got mobility on price, right? Or, they're.
Or really long close.
Or really long close, right? Might be more important to them. And so your deal hierarchy lets them, gives them options.
I would say 8 out of 10 deals are non-owner occupied. So it's property they own, but they don't necessarily occupy that property. It's a rental property, inherited property, it's in probate, it's some weird situation, there's a non-paying tenant. Like we take on the worst situations and handle them. So it's all these situations where we go in for the listing. And I used to go to these listing appointments, I'm like, God, like I'm gonna make 3% of this headache. Right? And it just didn't make any sense. Now, if you're the buyer though, it could make a lot of sense. So we figured out how to go solve all those problems.
I love that. Now, who remembers from the slides previously, what percentage of people think real estate is a good or better investment than the stock market?
88.
Good or better?
88.
88%, right? So when you have opportunity, everybody effectively has the opportunity to turn any property into an investment property. Because you have a database full of clients who might say, you know what, it's better than putting my money in the stock market. And that's effective. I mean, I've oversimplified, but like you would just become your own investor.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the opportunity we're sitting here has, right? And I mean, the cool thing is I'm kind of feeling comfortable having this conversation with the person sitting right next to me. Because the person sitting right next to you created one of the largest iBuyers, in Ohio, probably the largest iBuyer, situation in Ohio. Am I wrong with that?
Yes, yeah.
That
We're
turned in
acquiring probably 20 homes a month.
20 homes a month and for a long time, right? Like it's 20 homes a month is cool. 20 homes a month for 2 years in a row is crazy, right? Just think about that for a second. Like anybody could go figure out how to buy 20 homes in a month, right? With the money and contractor, but buying 20 homes a month consistently, that gets crazy quick, right?
It's a really interesting point though, because like here Ryan was doing it and then you started doing it.
Yeah.
So you weren't like, well, that market's already done. There's a guy doing it.
I mean, I think the opportunity in the room is how can you take the thing that we all know the best? Like, just raise your hand if like regular homes in Cleveland, greater Cleveland are what you probably know best. So like, why aren't we buying them? Like, how many inspections do you think you've been in? What's the guess? How many times have you met Greg Fuller in person? Like, you know what I mean? Like
In the earlier years,
Yeah.
hundreds.
So just think of how many inspections you've been in, how many appraisals you've been in, how many homes have you underwritten for a listing, meaning like when I say underwritten, like how many times have you priced out a home for sale, right? How many times have you had to actually find a contractor for the seller or
Which
the buyer?
I just think is an opportunity to, what Fellow's philosophy when we transitioned from Flash House to Fellow was agent-led iBuyer. We are no longer an iBuyer. Coby is an iBuyer. Agent-led, the thesis was most agents don't have a vehicle to get a cash offer on their home. Coby is your option, right? So if you guys have something that meets his criteria, that's a headache, right? I'm assuming it would be an opportunity for them to send them to you, right?
Exactly what that piece of paper is. On the flip side to it, we're using Fellow,
Yeah.
which is creating opportunity for this business. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%.
You could explain that better, but like, so I guess, where I go with that is just like, I always look at like, where's the most profit made? And it's not always in the listing. Now, I want to be clear, we have to do right by our clients for fiduciaries. So to be very clear, like on my contract, it does state on there, like we are doing this for profit. It actually says, Jacob/Coby Socher Speedy Offers is purchasing your home, hopefully for a profit. Like, it's a kind of joke that I put in there in my attorney loud, but like the point being is that like, we're being really clear, like this is for a profit. And we're also being clear, like, if they want to make more money on the market, they should. Like this is something they can, they should go do that. We're not holding them back or lying to them, or deceiving them in any way.
One quick thing, you said, how many people do you get in front of and what's your conversion on some level of interaction?
I think it depends on what the lead source is.
Okay.
Just like anything else,
Yeah.
right? So like, if you're at the grocery store, you're gonna have a lower conversion on listing appointments than if you're calling for sale by owners, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's kind of a weird analogy,
It works.
So like, if you're calling, but like, so like Fellow, I would say like our conversion on Fellow, I can get you like exact numbers, but like, if they're in our CRM or marketing them, and Fellow is the one that hits them right with that marketing piece, that's gonna be a pretty good, like, I would assume like for every 4 Fellow appointments, we're gonna go and get a contract for 1 property. And then probably the other 3 are just not ready yet, even it's not that they're dead. Would you agree with that?
The thing I think, what I would agree with is in thesis, yes. The key is the more equity you have in the relationship, the higher the conversion will be, right? So if you meet one person one time and you have no equity in the relationship, it's probably hard to instill trust and confidence from that one time versus like what we do. And if you meet someone at the grocery store, but you've seen them and they hear your radio ads or they see your marketing piece or whatever it is, the more equity you have in the relationship, all of a sudden more credibility you have, the more trust is already there, the higher the conversion.
So let's flip it a little bit. Ryan, we just entered, you know, you kind of walked up here, but who are you? What do you do? What, you know, huh?
I think it's 12.
No, no, it's perfect. No, it's perfect. It was, but then, you know, we were a little ahead of schedule, so.
So, you know, I pretty much know in the room. Ryan Young, obviously the young team. I've been with KW GM before Greater Cleveland. Before that, I think it was just Cleveland or something. 14 years. So really loyal and proud of what we've built here and with all of us together, you know, as partners. And then started Fellow, what started as Flash House in 2019. It turned over to Fellow in end of 2021. We launched the software October of 2022. And here we are today.
Great. So Fellow is what?
Fellow is a database engagement platform that's really focused on seller conversion. What we found is, and I just find this data fascinating, 80% of databases are basically comprised of buyer leads, right? So what we see historically across millions and millions of data contacts of databases uploaded. The reason being is over the past decade, I genuinely feel that there has been almost an epidemic in our industry, which is this buyer lead acquisition obsession, right? And we've built these databases of all these buyer leads that we're acquiring, and these buyer leads converted like 1%, right? And to us, that's just become industry standard versus, and I'll just kind of get like a little weird on you guys, like this business historically over the past couple of decades used to be like an independent based business, like realtors would network. Like my mom used to say, like, you know, my folks have been in the business forever. There was this one lady that would just go to the grocery store and she'd walk around with like the same items in her cart and just go up and down the aisles, just looking to make conversations with people. And she'd like spend hours at the grocery store and only buy like a couple of things, right? When I started, I went to BNI, right? Networking thing at 7:30. And it was like, at the time it was awful. About 5 years later, 10 years later, I ended up doing a lot of business from the time I invested over that time. We used to have a database that we actually cared about. And we used to do events and all these things like that we cared about. So we had these really rich, nutrient, I would say like dense databases that were really valuable. And then fast forward 10 years later, really over the past decade, we became obsessed with new lead acquisition, Zillow, Realtor.com, Facebook leads from Command for $2 a piece. All these different lead sources, right? Where we sold all these leads. And so what happened was we built our databases, what used to be like our prized asset. They all of a sudden became a liability because they're filled with a bunch of people that we don't really know who they are. We called them once, we texted them once, they never responded back. We met them in an open house, we put them in there, but then we never had any further communication. And so I know this is a long-winded answer, just asking what is Fellow, but as you can see, like, this is why this is really important. What we found was that the teams that have the most success in this industry, and I consider success not necessarily volume. That's what I found too. It's not necessarily volume or units sold, but profit, right? Pure profit based on margins, based on the size of the business that they're doing. What we found was the ones that crushed profit had really, really dialed in databases and strategies around seller lead generation and marketing to those databases and converting listings out of them. So to fast forward, what Fellow does is it engages with databases trying to basically move buyer leads into a seller position. We do it through the home value message, which is a very low intent top of funnel message, but it's relevant to every homeowner in the country, right? And so what happens is we start sending that message to all of these people in your database that you have no idea who they are. They've been in there for years. It all of a sudden gets them to raise their hand and say, here's my address because I want to see my home value. Now you're moving that database, that person in your database to something relevant, right? Which is a homeowner. Now that you know they're a homeowner and where they live, then we start marketing to them to essentially get them to raise their hand when they're ready to sell their home. So I know it was a long-winded answer, but I think it's really important to understand like why it became what it was. And you don't have to, it doesn't make sense for a lot of people in this room to use Fellow. It's like, totally makes sense that it's like, it's for teen, we have single agents, but it's like, I say it because you don't need to use fellow to have this foundation of your business, which is this asset of a database. And the more you look at your database and the more you can say, we are so intentional with the young team. We have about 80% homeowners attached to our database because we are so intentional with every single person that gets in there, trying to find out where they live so we can start marketing appropriately,
So I wanna, thank you for that.
Yeah,
And I
sorry.
wanna unpack, because here are two guys that have been with the company for about 13 and 14 years respectively. And they're talking about two things. One, database, right, which we talked about a lot today. The second thing is they're talking about solving problems, right? For Coby, it was the problem of what's the disposition opportunity on this house if it has a non-paying tenant, if it's they don't want to list, they need to go quicker, they're willing to take a cash offer. Ryan's was solving problems for people who, for the real estate agent who has been swept up in this tide of online lead generation that almost exclusively drives buyer leads down the bottom of the funnel.
Yep.
So take that frame. And if you want to go start a big business to solve the next problem for your clients or for real estate agents, there's no better place to do it. And you can focus on what are the problems that you can solve for your clients.
Can I pause you for a second? I think it's really important to throw out there, like, yes, it's solving a problem for like the global, the global world.
Yeah.
But I think we're both for solving problems for ourselves.
Yeah, for sure.
And so I think it's just clear to throw out there, like, you first start with like, what are issues that you're having in your database? So like, what are issues, so for me, one of the issue is when somebody was going to sell, sometimes they would go take a cash offer and I'd be like, wait a second. I know if you sell this property for, let's say, 150, and you took a $75,000 offer, like, why would you do that? And they were like, oh, you know what? It's just like, we were just done. It didn't make sense anymore. And it kept happening and it was so shocking to me. And I mean, you've probably seen this at a really high level, right? And so at some point I'm like, I wish you would have come to me first. Like, I would have bought that for like, it's worth 150, sold for 75. Like, that's a real thing that happens, by the way. And I'm like, you sold this for like 50 cents in the dollar. Like, how, and you're like scratching your head trying to figure out like what the deal is, but the terms and the situation, the reasoning, I mean, some people are just embarrassed what their home looks like. Some people don't need the money. Some people really need the money quick. Some people are gonna lose the property to the bank. They'd rather get out clean. Some people, like, there's all these things. And so I wish they had come to me. So by branding them coming to me, instead of just going, oh, well, the Socher team can help you, by branding them coming to me and saying, oh, Speedy Offers would be happy to make you a cash offer in your home, or what we could do is help you list the property with our partner, the Socher team.
What's really crazy is, and I talked about this on a MOFR panel that I led.
What's an offer, Ryan?
Make offer for immediate response. So the young team's done the guaranteed offer and stuff like that. It's so funny what Coby just said, like solving problems for ourselves. When we started Flash House, so the young team did the guaranteed sale, right? If we can't sell your home, we'll buy it guaranteed, which ended up turning into a cash offer program. Young team, it's an offer because we started buying houses, similar situation. We then, as you can imagine, it becomes a little polarizing when you're offering a cash offer and then making a recommendation on list price. Sometimes it actually adds friction to the sale, which actually hurts conversion. So you go there and say, the young team's cash or instant offer is 100,000, but we'd recommend you list it at 150. And they say, well, why would you only give me 100 if you say I should list it at 150? And it actually added friction, right? So we said, let's insulate the young team and just rebrand the young team instant offer as Flash House. Okay. The whole logic behind that was, now, even though I owned 100% of both entities, we could say Flash House is offering you this, and here's what the young team would recommend, right? And then completely alleviate that. Here's where it got really interesting though. So we started marketing direct to consumer Flash House. We were driving 500 offer requests a month, just, through mailing, stuff like that. We started getting offers, cash offer requests to Flash House that had no idea that the young team owned it, from people that were in the young team database. Okay. So when you talk about so what we started realizing was, and this is how Fellow became about, was, wait, why aren't they going to the young team so that the young team can take them to Flash House, right? So that's where Fellow came about, was like, wait, how do we create this mechanism that gets in front of our databases that says, we do provide a cash offer, right? Or we can help you facilitate a cash offer, which then led into the software play and all that stuff. But it's just really funny when you say that, like, it was all like iterations based off of pain points that we were having. And then it went into the next, and then it went to the next, and hopefully after Fellow, there's no more next.
But we're still talking about the same thing, which is one asset class, which is like,
Sure.
call it like an under 4 unit home.
Yep.
Do you agree? Like, it's like 1 to 4 unit property, mostly single family, some 2s and 3s.
Yep.
But we're talking about like this, so it's like the exact same thing.
So, I wanna shift a little bit, because we're having a conversation about family reunion, and I would imagine the experience for you guys on your panels, but also, you know, I think as I recently described you in an email, as like the most popular people in the company, while we were there. What's the experience like for you? Like, you know, what is family reunion to you if you weren't gonna be on stage? Is it still compelling to get in the room with all those people? I think you already answered that a little bit, but.
So you're saying like from just more like. one of
From
my
Ryan
team
Young's
members-
perspective, you're taking your team out there, like talk
Yeah,
about
without
your
all the
family-
stage stuff. and
Yeah,
stuff.
without all the stage stuff.
Yeah, I mean, here, so I love family reunion for a couple things. So I go to family reunion and mega camp every year except for when it's in Anaheim. I see. It's just one of those things. Here's what I love about it. The energy is phenomenal. So it's like right before spring market, so it's like kind of get yourself fired up, like, you know, rah, et cetera. There's always great energy. Obviously, this year was like exceptional energy because of Tony and just a lot of the things that were happening. What I also really like about it is you can get really tactical from a breakout perspective. And because you have the optionality of the breakouts, and the breakouts are always like very like tactical driven, I feel like you could actually take away things that you can implement and like that can make a difference in your business. You know, versus like a mega camp, you bring 3 big megas on the stage and it's like talking about high level business stuff. It's not that same kind of vibe. The other component of family reunion that I just think is like super important, not just the tactical side and the energy and stuff like that, but every time I go there, it just, I think like reconfirms and instills the like, what I love about Keller Williams, like it's Gary being Gary and brilliant and stuff like that. It's a lot of the biggest thought leaders in Keller Williams kind of sharing and giving back. You know, they're on like I was on 5 different panels. It's like, it's exhausting, right? Like, but it's an opportunity to give back and pour into people. And it's like, from the flip side, it's amazing that you have these people that are willing to pour into you. So it's an unbelievable experience year over year. It's like, it's just like reconfirms what I love about Cato, you know?
I would just throw out there like 2 things on that, which is that, one is the first Keller Williams I ever went to, I was like, man, it'd be really cool.
Was that Dallas?
Yeah, it'd be really cool to build something to the point where somebody wants to listen to me up on stage. But not just like, okay, let's go get up on stage, you go get up on stage, because that's a bunch of fluff in a way. But if you actually have, like, it'd be really, and it took 13 years, and it kind of goes back, like, I think the biggest Keller Williams saying that's been around has been like the concept of like, you know, what you can build in 1 year is always way less than what you would like. But what you can build in 5 years is way more than you could ever imagine. Or I don't know if that's the exact way of saying it.
We overestimate what we can accomplish in a year and grossly underestimate what we can accomplish in 5.
Right, like what I think I can get done in a day is just super delusional, right? But what I can get done in a year, that's incredible, right? And it's with everything. And so for me to be there this time and then to have that opportunity, but it was based off of like putting in not just the time, but showing that I have a viable thing that makes sense for people to listen to and learn. So like it was just to me like this kind of like surreal moment where I realized I'm like, okay, this is like, and then there's so many more levels to go with it, right? But it's the like for agents by agents. So it wasn't for me. It was other agents being able to learn, like, what are some of the things that Ryan is doing? What are some of the things that Coby, what are some things that this person's doing, that person's doing, from all different levels and perspectives, kind of like how we're doing today, right? And how could I implement one thing from that? How could I change a mindset on that? Like, if you told me I was gonna be the buyer in 2011 when I started, like, there's no, like, that doesn't make any, I wish I was buyer in 2011. We all should have been the buyer in 2011. But, you know, I wouldn't have thought that was the case.
Yeah.
And now if you were to tell me that like this year I'll probably buy, you know, over 100 properties, I definitely wouldn't think that was the case.
What is it like, I mean, I don't know the statistics, but I'm trying to think of like how many market centers have multiple people on multiple panels, right? And so like you two guys, you run in a different circle, right, with your peers and inside the company, but what is the perspective that it gave you on our company here locally?
Yeah, Ryan was on like the global circle. I'm in the farming circle.
Farming community.
The farming, yeah, they need love too.
Yeah, I was thinking, by the way, I see a guy in a cowboy. I was like, I should show up in a cowboy hat.
That's amazing. What was it about the,
Just contextualizing Keller Williams Greater Metropolitan against
Yeah.
the entire company, like.
I
what's
mean,
it
we're
like to-
legit, like, we're legit. I think that's just one of those things.
Good to
that's
hear.
like, It's, we're legit. We have a legit leader that I would put up against any other leader in all of PW. We're just really, I say this about my team as well. You take it for granted, like, you know, it's just some of the people that we have, really talented people that are willing to contribute and participate and stuff like that. You know, great leadership. It's the same thing with the office. You just realize a lot of offices are a bunch of individual people, you know, like doing their own thing and stuff like that. I think it just always, every time we're at these events, it always just puts things in perspective, how fortunate what we have here and how special of a market center we have. And it just always reiterates that, you know.
I mean, I'll push it back to you. I mean, I don't know, does anybody here know that Mike was on probably the biggest panel of all?
Yeah.
Right? So like Mike was on a huge panel.
You did that under the
Talked about
radar, by the
today.
way.
Did you talk about that today?
I did not.
So Mike was on the biggest panel of all and, you know, leadership panel in front of 1,200 people. You know, receiving a huge award for being the #2 market center out there. When you say you're from Keller Williams Greater Metropolitan, by the way, anybody who's inside of Keller Williams and looks at these things like, how are you guys so profitable? Right? By the way, if you're out there also, people are like, yeah, I know that you're the number, like, I know you guys because I want to recruit to you guys because they know they'll get more profit share if they recruit to our market center because we share more profit than anybody else, or the second most profitable profit than anybody else. Right? And so like people are really interested to learn, like, what are you guys doing to have success? They're like asking me what we're doing as a company to have success. And I think we're in Cleveland in this kind of bubble, right? Like when you live here, like I live on the east side, like the west side seems really far. Like, and right from the west side, this side seems really far, right? And so like, and then you get out in a global setting and people are like, what are you doing to have success? And so that's just kind of, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's a really cool thing, and it just reinforces, you know, that we take what we do here very seriously, right? So we sold 3,500 homes as a company last year. And when we look at like how we achieve something like that, how do we achieve over $1 million in profit share back to our agents? It's by helping agents achieve their goals, right? There's the very old, very tired Zig Ziglar quote, which is if you help enough people get what they want, you can have whatever you want. I think what we're trying to do as an organization is ensure that everybody who wants a successful career in real estate gets it and gets to define what success looks like. I talk all the time about like, you know, there is a tremendous amount of value in being in business partnerships with people like Ryan and Coby, who sold 400 and 200 properties last year. And then there's somebody in this company who is selling 2 or 3 homes to spoil their grandkids on Christmas. And we are in the business of helping everybody on that spectrum get what they want out of a career in real estate. And it's because we're willing to serve the agent at the highest level that we achieve the success that we have. Learned it from watching.
Yeah, I just throw out there like, I guess my last plug is I handed you guys a piece of paper and on that piece of paper, you might read it as a way to help Coby. And essentially what this is, Mike, just so you know, because I didn't ask for permission for this.
Seldom do.
But
Asking for forgiveness. Buy 4 C2G, one of those is ask for.
And yeah, what I throw out there, so it's pretty much Coby's buy box, it's how Coby buys, right? And essentially it tells you the cities I like to buy in, it tells you the way that we buy, that it's a cash offer on the end buyer. It says that, you know, no inspections, right? It'll say we can close at any time. I wrote all these different things in there, right? And you're looking at that, and what I hope you do though, is figure out how you can do that. Because what I can tell you is that last year, and I'm very confident and comfortable stating this because I had a lot of years without a lot of profit, right? But last year, just the flipping side of our business, not even the other, not the other things that we do inside this business, just the flipping side of the business netted a little over $1.7 million last year, right? And this is a business that didn't exist 3 years ago. I want to be really clear. And so I'm comfortable stating that because it almost feels like I'm like, you know, I feel like I'm like football rich, you know, like you get like the football contract out of college and it's like, oh shit, what do I do with all this, right? And so to me, I'm still like excited by it at that level. And yet I put in 10 years or longer of being the realtor and representing everybody else through these transactions to the point where I got to become that. And part of that was figuring out that like, I really wanted to have a network, right? How do I build a network? You can't just have commissions. You got to do something with your commissions, right? So then it was like putting aside commissions for a long time until then it was like, okay, we put a down payment on something, you can buy something, or finding the money, you're doing the thing. But before you can have a set amount of net worth, you have to figure out how to have self-worth. How do you have the confidence and how do you have like, how do you believe in yourself? How are you worthy enough to allow yourself to go do this? Because I spent so long kind of telling myself, well, like, that's for the big dogs, right? That's for the rich people. Like I would lie to myself about everybody. Like, let's say you made a ton of money. It's like, oh, well, you know, their family has this, or they must have an inheritance, or I don't have this, or I don't, and it was all those things we learned in Bold, but anyways, taking Bold. And over time, I realized I'm like, what if I took all of that, threw it in the garbage and believed in myself? What could I accomplish? And I think looking at the things that we've accomplished, you know, now that I did what I did last year, it's now I'm going, okay, well, if I can do that last year, here's what I can now be in a trajectory towards. And so I spent too long with my brain in the gutter, not believing in myself and doing well, by the way. Like we did well, like we sold a lot of homes. Like if you've seen me here in the past 5 or 10 years, like we got the awards, we did this, but like that, you know, by really truly believing in myself, that led me to the place that I'm sitting today that didn't exist 3 years ago. And I think that should just be something you take away of like, this isn't something that takes forever that you can't do. Like anybody here can go buy a shitty house in South Euclid. Everybody here can go into Home Depot, pick out some paint colors, go on, you know, Pinterest. Everybody here can go find a contractor. Everybody here, if they don't have the money, can go find the money. You can spend way too much money. Let's say you took a hard money loan and spent 15% interest rate on a deal, but if you're gonna make 40% margin, like who cares if you spend 15% on the money? And I'm just throwing out there like the stuff that I'm doing.
Don't you do hard money?
Yeah.
So he can help you acquire properties and he can also help you fund those properties. Gotta plug my boy.
Yeah. Well, I wanna tie a few of these threads.
There's gonna be a Venmo request after this.
Want to tie a few of these threads together, right? So what Coby's talking about is, you know, something that he's built in the last 3 years, but I don't want to discount that you spent a decade mastering real estate.
Well, that was going back to the concept of everything, like you're hearing the ADD version, but like that's going back to the concept of, you know, you don't think what you think you could accomplish in a year is untrue, but what you can accomplish in 5. Maybe for me it was 10, right? I'm a little slower than most, maybe, right?
I wouldn't
But
say so, but
10 years and then
Yeah.
something pops. And
Yes.
and it's the same, I think it's the something like you wouldn't have known what you know, be able to talk about the data and fellow if you hadn't built the young team, then gone through Flash House, and then gotten to this point where you had these realizations to what was actually needed to build. Like you can't just, that's why all these people who just create these tech startups for real estate that we all try but don't actually work and no one actually uses after a month, right? Like, that's why they don't work, because they didn't, like, you're doing it, right?
Yeah.
That's why I'm doing this whole 30 listings thing, 30 listing appointments set in 30 days. Is to show the users of our product, like, I'll put my money where my mouth is and use our product and set 30 listing appointments in 30 days out of it. And it's like, there's a lot of people trying to monetize our industry that have never been in our industry, you know? And so it's like my way to say like, real estate is my core competency. Like, that's what, it was my foundation. It's what led me to this opportunity because I was solving a pain point with our own team that ultimately we decided we could actually scale the solution. But it's to that exact reason right there. It was like, because real estate is my core competency, that's helped us scale our business a lot quicker because there's trust built because of the credibility of what I've already built before.
And it goes back to the thing you opened with, which is, you know, this is a company where entrepreneurs thrive. And I think that real estate as an industry is one that is inherently entrepreneurial, not in the, I'm gonna have an idea and then like, it's gonna blow up and be the biggest thing ever. I mean, or I'm just gonna, oh, I heard Coby, now I'm gonna go start investing. I mean, the world is littered with failed real estate investors, failed flippers that don't have real estate as their core competency. Right? Even up all the way up to the BlackRock that buys them 40,000 at a time, they make some really bad purchases, right? Because they're not hyper focused on what their buy box is or understanding the pain points to the extent that they can do something about it. And so going from all of that to our conversation this morning about database, that's where it's all going to start. So treating your database like making sure everyone in your database knows that they are in your database, knows that you love them and that you care about them and that you will help them and you can help them in a number of different ways. That's the key. And once we get there, then it's just a function of time. Time is the variable between you and everything that you want. And so the harder you work, the shorter time gets, the more opportunities will come your way. Closing thoughts from you, gentlemen?
I'd say around family reunion.
Just about anything in the industry. We got you here. Why not just, pontificate?
Interesting news about Mark King.
Yeah.
That's I would just say from a family, I know this is a family reunion conversation. What I told my team was, you're gonna go there and you're gonna be like, a lot of our team members, it was their first time there, and you're gonna be over inundated by a lot of things, right? Biggest agents in KW, the big stages, the speakers, the panels, all these different things, right? I said, your goal is to walk out of here with one thing that you can implement that changes the trajectory of your business. And so find something that inspires you, whether it's at family reunion or it's at summer masterminds, great opportunity for summer masterminds.
July 16th.
There we go. Find something that inspires you and that you believe in and like double down on it and then double down on it again. So I guess that'd be quadruple down on it. And then quadruple down on it again.
It's a 16th
down. Find that one thing. Don't try to do so many things. I think when I first started, I would go to these events and I would be like, but this person's doing this, and I need to do this, and I need to do this, and I need to do all these different things, and I never did any of them. Find the one that is like you think is going to impact your business. And what's crazy is there was probably something, and I can't like pinpoint it, but there was probably something from a family reunion 7 years ago or 10 years ago or whatever it was that was influential and was kind of, I would say, an inflection point in my career, something I heard that inspired me to do something like that. And it could be us sitting right here and Coby talking about, how he ended up building Speedy Offers or how I ended up building Fellow or whatever it is. But if you can walk away from those type of events with one thing that ultimately you double down on and changes the trajectory of your business, the ROI on it is priceless. The $800 ticket or whatever it costs, the flight, the hotels, a couple of drinks at the bar. Like, if you think about it, a $3,000, $4,000 investment, that's something you hear one person say that really resonates with you. The mistake is you hear something that one person says that really resonates with you, but then you come home and you just get back into your routine and it's just like, well, I can't do that. their market's higher end, or I can't do that because they have a team or whatever it is. I just think the best ROI on that investment is finding one thing. And it is amazing when you look back after years of, you know, that compounding, the value add, and it's like, that's the biggest ROI on events like that.
Really cool.
Yeah.
I agree with everything. that you just said. I mean, and I would say that like one of the things that I've been trying to do is, my business coach once said to me, like, you should be spending 10% of your income on education. To make 100 grand, go spend $10,000 a year on education. Make $1 million, you gotta spend 100 grand a year. You just keep upgrading that, right? Like I spend more per year than like sending 2 kids to Harvard, right? Like, it's kind of crazy if you think about it. And what's the return on investment? Right? Like, and I can tell you straight up that over the past 5 years, I've spent more money on education than makes sense. But now if you look at some of the spikes that I've had, some of the lucky moments that I've had in my last couple of years, right? It's like, well, I just learned way faster than anybody else is willing to learn, right? Like I've been reading 2 to 3 books a month for 5 years straight, right? Like go now, put that on top of each other and compound that up, go write a 1-pager after each book, and then go look at what you've learned, right? Like all these different things, like how do you do lending? How do you do hard money? Well, I've read about 15 books on it. I've listened to every podcast. I've gone to a conference about it. Well, now I understand it. I can use a mortgage calculator. I can do like right, like there's just certain things that like you don't know, but you don't learn, you don't know. So now on the flip side of that, I think getting away from your business is sometimes one of the most important things you can do. You look at your business now on a 30,000-foot view as if you're on like an airplane. And you're able to like look down and you can see it in a way that you can't when you're in the tranche, like you're just like, you know, sometimes I just feel like I'm in like there's just like a field of shit and I'm just like wading through it. And I'm just everybody, you know, whether I look up or down, it's bad. Right. And then you get away from it, you kind of figure out like how to move around, how to separate it out, how to like, you know, compartmentalize certain things and what should be gotten rid of and what's not important, what is important, and like what actually needs to be done to move forward. And sometimes for me, at least when I'm in the ground, in the office doing the thing, I can't always see that same vision I can as when I'm away from it. It's kind of like when you're on a vacation, but this is a vacation where you allow your brain to not just try to go into like beach mode, but like how to actually like build and be working on your business versus working in your business. So to me, like I can for sure say like the family reunion and mega camp, but family reunion is like probably the coolest event out there because everybody's just there to get better, right? Like there's not anybody there. Like, yeah, there's some people there for the fun, but like overall, I'd say 99% of the people are like, how do I grow? How do I get better? How do I, and so it's just fun to be in a room like that. 'Cause most of us, I seem like our friends and family and whatnot around us aren't always trying to figure out how to make it improve. Whereas like, we're always trying to improve things, right? And so it's really fun to be around those type of people.
Yeah. It is. It's unique. It's unlike, I mean, any industry, any company, real estate, otherwise, like it's a very, very special experience. And appreciate you guys sharing the perspective that you have as multiple times there and now the starring attractions of the event. So let's give it up for Ryan and Coby. If anybody has any questions for Ryan or Coby about anything that they shared or about their experience?
I have a light and fluffy.
Been a long.
Where did fellow come from?
The name?
Yeah.
From a naming agency that we paid $30,000. Now we're getting sued because the name Fellow by Mellow, because it rhymes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
It doesn't stand for anything.
I didn't bring it up because I knew about that.
Yeah, it's basically built by agents for our fellow agents, built for our fellow people.
Okay.
We went from being a direct to consumer iBuyer, which was called Flash House, which was like pretty aggressive, like to all of a sudden saying like, we want to partner with our fellow agents. So.
And Coby, you're amazing.
And we offers Flash House, like we wanted to kind of like. Yeah. Thanks, guys. Cool.
All right, and thank you one more time to our sponsor.